All right, welcome everyone. Today is Saturday. It's May the 21st. I'm Frosty, and this is MogTalk. If this is your first time actually joining us here on the show, MogTalk is a broadcast where we get the Final Fantasy XIV community to come together and discuss everything from Savage raiding to Chocobo racing to PvP. Today, we are discussing the latter, more specifically the Feast 4v4, is that right? Yeah, 4v4 solo queue. And before we jump into it, of course, I need to introduce our guest here. First, we have returning with us in all his puppy glory, Chyea. How are you doing, man?
Hi, I'm good. Glad to be here.
Awesome, man. Sorry we couldn't get your cam up. I'm sure a lot of people are really disappointed about that.
It's my fault that I couldn't get my cam up. I left at the last minute and spaghetti ensued.
It's okay. That just means we gotta get another show. When we do the achievement show, you have to have it up by then.
It's gonna be quite a show.
Yeah. All right. And so I wanted to ask you real quick so everyone's kind of familiar with it. What's your involvement with the Feast currently? So if you had someone wanted to say, hey, how long have you been playing the Feast? Where are you at with the Feast? What would you tell them?
I've played the Feast far too much. I believe I've played the most solo queue Feast out of anyone in the world so far.
Yeah.
On one character. Maybe people with multiple characters have played more than me, but I've played a lot of Feast.
Yeah. And you're actually pretty high up on the ranking board for a while.
Yeah.
People starting to squeeze their way in, but you've been like number 2, number 3 for a while, right?
Yeah,
On
I'm
Aether
not
Date or
nearly as good as the other people in the top 10, but just sheer number of games have kept me up there.
Yeah. So when you're at that point, when do you start, and this is just curiosity real quick, when do you start actually losing more points than you gain points from a win?
Roughly high gold.
High gold?
Is when you're going to start, yeah, it's when you're going to start losing more than you win, like around maybe 1,300, 1,200.
Okay.
So at Plat, it's roughly like you have to win 2 games for every 1 game you lose in order to climb.
That's actually really exciting for me to hear, but that's just my opinion. Anyways, we won't jump into that just yet. And I want to go into our next guest here. World Champion is your in-game name, which you got to feel glorious when people have to talk to you. I mean, tell me real quick. I just have to ask you this: when you made that name, were you just like, "This is my intention"? People are going to be forced to call me World Champion all the time.
So when I made that name, it was actually for like I'm a big PvPer, so it was for PvP. So yeah, when I moved to, I think I changed it at the 2.0 launch, and I changed it to World Champion, and because I knew like, okay, well when the game gets PvP, I want to be Ash Ketchum. I want to be the very best, like no one ever was.
Nice, nice. That's really awesome, man. I'm going to call you Champ throughout the game just to try to make it a little bit easier for me. I don't want to call you World because that's kind of weird.
Mr. Champ, please.
Mr. Champ, okay.
Yep,
Mr. Champ. I'll be Professor Champ or whatever.
There we go.
Yeah, we'll just make that work. And then Chyea will be actual Champ.
Yes. Oh, and Chyea was being way too modest. He was actually number 1 on the leaderboard for a while too. So he goes back and forth from top 3 pretty much. Yeah. He's a lot better than he says he.
Yeah, and
he's being modest.
The entire time I'm talking about getting Chyea on, he's like, "Man, I don't know a lot about PvP. I don't know what I'm doing. There's no reason you should get me on the show." And even if you're like not the most knowledgeable PvP player, Chyea, being up at the top of the board takes some sort of thought. I mean, you can't smash out 1,000 games and lose, half of them and be near that.
Unless you're Dragoon.
Okay. Well, whatever. I still think that
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, don't be modest. Be right now. Tell everyone that you're really great. You're an awesome player, Chyea.
I'm okay.
I can't do it. You gotta do. Is that Canadian in you?
Listen. Here's the problem.
Yeah.
On the leaderboard right now, like I play monk, and there's 2 other monks who are above me, and they're way better than me. So I can't say I'm good. So I gotta I gotta practice. I gotta train.
Okay. All right.
I'm a good healer.
At least that's a good attitude to have for a good player. A really great player, one of the best players, will have that attitude. So we know you're good, Chyea. All right. So you just kind of proved it there. Thank you. So real quick, and Champ, I swear, I'm going to try to do a non-spiteful Champ. How long have you been playing Feast?
Since I kind of missed out on day 1. I had to do something in real life. I think I had like work stuff, but so since day 2, pretty much. Well, actually, I played whenever the patch went live at like 1 a.m. I played a little bit then, and then I had work stuff to do for the day. So I came back, and back then the leaderboards didn't really count, but I was already behind as far as rank rating. So I was like, oh crap, But yeah, I've been playing since they launched it.
Okay, awesome. So we got a lot of good things to actually talk about today, and I'm really excited to talk about all of this.
This topic's actually really good. There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, there is a lot to talk about. And it was really awesome because this is following up the community show that just happened yesterday. They did the whole community team got on and they were playing PvP in the feast, and so we got to see their reactions to all this. So it was kind of interesting to see that. But now we're going to get into the really in-depth detail stuff here, the hardcore PvPers, right? Yeah. I am. And by the way, for everyone to know kind of where I'm at, I'm at like, I don't know, 50 games or so, maybe one. I'm not like a huge PvPer, but I love PvP a lot in the game and Feast. I'm a silver rank guy running about, I don't know, 560. No, I think I'm in the 600s now for points. I'm rocking it. All right, but I'm still gaining more points from every win, so it doesn't matter. As long as I keep a 50-50 up, I'm doing good. So today, anyways, we'll be focusing mostly on solo queue aspect of the feast. We're talking about strategy, advice, and we'll likely expand a little bit more out since PvP advice can kind of easily roll into each other. It's not all going to just stay with the feast, but that's going to be our main focus with solo queue feast. We will be hitting a couple other aspects later in the discussion, but first, I do want to go and just ask both you guys, after Feast has been out for a couple of months, has Feast done its job in really improving PvP for Final Fantasy XIV? And
Chad, you go first.
Chyea has a lot to say on that.
Okay.
So the question is, has it done its job improving PvP? Objectively, I say yes, only because what we had for PvP before was the fold. Or Wolves Den, the 50 cap, and I mean that wasn't much. That wasn't much PvP. I think the real like breaking point for a lot of people PvPing was Seal Rock. I think Seal Rock did a really good job of everyone could just jump in and fight other players. But as far as like an arena style, when this map first came out, I was really happy with it because it was something new and it was actually fun. I don't know. Couple thousand matches in now, I don't know if I still feel the same way, but it was refreshing and it was different. So it brought PvP into a PvP-less game kind of thing. We have some PvP before, but it wasn't really. I feel like the feast was done really well at launch. I think there needs to be some tweaks and things like that, but I do think that it did its job of improving an almost non-existent PvP. And the other thing is, so when the feast came out, I saw players that I haven't seen since, patch 2.1, that I saw them in the Wolves Den or whenever Wolves Den came out. I saw them playing the feast, and it was like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you guys in forever. Right. So it was really nice. So the PvP community, as small as we are, a lot of people showed back up, which was great.
Yeah, and I mean, people love people who play PvP in Final Fantasy actually really love doing it. From what I've seen, at least. Chyea, what's your thoughts on it, man?
Well, I agree with everything Chap said. The thing that drives the most people into PvPing is probably the leaderboard, because like Seal Rock didn't have that, and Old Wolves didn't have that. But the leaderboard is definitely a driving factor for a lot of people to PvP. They all want to get top 100, top 10 to get the prizes at the end of the season. So in terms of like the competitiveness and like people's willingness to improve or climb, definitely. Way better than Seal Rock, definitely better than Old Wolf Den, because there's actually an end of the season reward that people are hyped for.
Right. So they have a good driving factor this time, and so people are.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know if it's
I wouldn't say it's good.
I don't know if it's good, but there's something there, and like every day you can see how your rank changes in the top 100. So like once you're up there, you have a drive to either get there or keep climbing up.
Right. And I mean, there's also good things and bad things. Just I think with that system in general, with how the rating system works to get you up there.
Yeah, it's not well implemented. It's not implemented perfectly.
Right. There's a couple of things that probably could change on that, and we can get a little bit more into that later too. But I also want to ask you guys, because now that we've been DPSing, or not DPSing, now that we've been fighting, fighting as a DPS, I guess, in PvP for a while. The queues are a little bit different than they were when they first came out. When it first came out, queues were immediate, right? And you are also fighting people who were a complete mixed bag, really amazing players versus people who know almost nothing. And now that people are kind of getting up there in the higher tiers, and how they're doing the matching system where you kind of only can fight somebody that's within the same 2 or 3 leagues, I think, of you.
Yeah, it's two leagues.
Two
So
leagues. Yeah.
bronze can go up to gold, and then gold can go up to diamond.
So right now, people are actually starting to hit diamond. And so they are pretty separated from everyone else. And, on another point to that, it's kind of weird. Are people, when they hit diamond, do they just stop playing?
Well, once you're at diamond, you can only get matched up with golds. And if you're DPS, that means that the pool of players that you can queue with at any given time is pretty small. So it's generally not worth the 2 hour long queue just to get into one game at diamond to play.
Right. And so that's kind of an issue in itself. But when we add in one more layer down and we go into platinum, which is where most of the really high skilled players are at right now, what's their queues looking like?
Well, it depends on the time of day. It also depends if there's more than one platinum in the queue. So if it's the way the queue system works is that if you have a platinum person queuing and another platinum person queuing at the same moment, it's pretty likely that they're going to get matched up with each other within about 5 minutes. They're going to build the queue around them. But a platinum person queuing by themselves, especially if they're DPS, it takes a while to build the queue or to find the people suitable for that queue. As a DPS, I'm roughly in the morning, like whenever I have time to PvP in the morning, it's like an hour-long queue. So like I'm just doing other stuff while the queue's going on, and maybe it'll pop within an hour. And then during prime time, it's between about 5 to 15, 20 minutes.
That sounds about right. I mean, when we're talking about waiting for PvP in like other games and other MMOs and everything else, people are used, either it gets ranked, immediately, you get into a match immediately, or you're dealing with maybe a 5-minute wait. And that's kind of what people have a tolerance for, it almost seems like. But I'm right now in Silver League, when it's going, and it's going well, I'm about 5 to 10 minutes per queue. Is that where we should be expecting Final Fantasy PvP?
Champ, go ahead.
I think it's a double-edged sword kind of thing. It's nice to get those 5 to 10 minute queues, but honestly, I would rather get matched up with similar players in the rating and wait longer than have to get matched up with like a Jon Snow who knows nothing and is like a bronze or unranked and just kind of goes in there and it's. I'd rather wait a long time and get matched up with similar players, just because the win chance is a lot higher.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah, because I mean, this is the biggest issue I think that people are running into is that they're queuing, especially for their gold promotions, and they're queuing with unranked healers and unranked other players. And that's for you moving up a rank so you can get away from the unranked players, but they're coming back within those last 5 games, and there's nothing you can do about it. Right. You're going to get in that match, and you're going to have people who have no clue what they're going to do, and you're going to lose. So I think that's where people are struggling the most at. And once they get to that gold rank, though, I think that's kind of the sweet spot, right? That's where it becomes kind of okay because you're dealing with people who kind of have an idea with what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean...
Bronze is pretty easy to get, though. The bronze players are almost as bad as the unranked players.
Okay, fair enough.
And I mean, I've had where you see, the results at the end where it shows like what everybody's rated. And I've had matches where, it's me, gold, and then 3 unrateds against 4 silvers or something like that. It's like they expected me to carry 3 unrated. Like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
that's just the problem with the queuing system. But I think they were more liberal in how they set up the queues, just because they didn't know how people are going to be queuing. If in the future the feast is continues on for later seasons, I think they might adjust the queuing system to be like within your rank or within one rank. So that would be a lot easier for people to swallow. They don't have to deal with the absolute garbage piss tier.
Do you think that the piss? Do you think that that's not going to kill the feast though, because of how long the queues might be from that?
I mean, I really don't know. There's been lots of games where I've been it's been plat, gold, 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 plat. So like there's been a bunch of those games. So I think it's possible to have one dividing rank for the queue times. Of course, I mean I don't know the actual internal numbers or how many people are queuing in each rank. So maybe not.
All right.
Baseless speculation.
And also, this isn't an uncommon thing too. If people are getting up to diamond, they're going to have a long wait time, whether they're playing Final Fantasy or they're playing another game. Right. Like if you play StarCraft 2, right? You're playing that game and you're at the Masters League, you're at the top league. you're still waiting a while to find someone that can actually match up against
You have to wait till the Koreans wake up if you're
Yeah,
in
you have to
America.
wait till the Koreans wake
Yeah.
up. Right. And so, I mean, you're waiting a while no matter what in any PvP game. So it's kind of a silly thing to say that you're waiting a long time. If you're waiting a long time, hopefully that means that you're semi good at the game. Although, to be honest, I was queuing up, I think it was Tuesday. Tuesday, is that right? And it was maybe 9:30 Pacific time. And I queued up as a ranged DPS, and I waited 50 minutes. And I had to kill the queue. There's like a sweet time for it.
Yeah, I don't think Tuesday's the best day to PvP because there's a lot of people raiding. Like Tuesday's probably the worst weekday.
Right.
Maybe, yeah. So on Tuesdays, I also generally notice that the queues are kind of slow, just because people are off, doing PvE stuff, camping, raiding, whatever.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize that too when they're queuing. They're just queuing when they can, and they're like, "Oh, well, the queues suck." They're not relating it to the logistics behind all that.
I think the prime time, probably the best time for queue in my experience is between 5 to 7 PST, or around that time frame. About 5 to 8 PST. So like those 3 hours, pretty bumping right there.
Right.
And I actually prefer not to queue during prime time because like if you think about it, everyone's getting off of work, and then you have more people who aren't PvPers that are queuing in solo queue, just because they want to play or have some fun, and so it can hurt my rating because then I get everyone's queuing right now, so I actually don't like to queue during prime time. I'll wait until I know my buddies are late night. Chyea might be PvPing late at night, so I usually wait till then.
Okay. So it just really it depends on what you're looking for too, I guess. If you're just looking to play the game, or you're looking to actually mold it into something that's a little bit more enjoyable for yourself, if you really like PvP. Okay. So enough about that. Enough about the queue. I just wanted to make sure we kind of talked about that a little bit so people understood kind of what to expect currently with the feast. I want to actually start getting into some strategy talk, which is something I'm excited about because I need to figure out how to be a little bit better at the feast so I can get up to that gold rank, man, and then I can get away from all the unranked people. Then I gotta get, maybe a little bit better. So the first part of where strategy actually starts within a match is the first minute, where you can't do anything. You're locked in that little room, but that's a key time to actually bang out a few things. At least I think it's a key time to do it. So what are some things you need to actually look out for during that first minute of prep time? And Chyea, if you want to start it. I don't think Chyea might hit a call. Okay, Champ, you do it.
So things to look out for. Who's wearing accuracy gear? Who's we're talking about solo queue, right?
Yeah, solo queue.
It's kind of hit or miss. I think I've tried the whole macro to strategy. That's like attack the mark target, that kind of stuff. And then it's a 50% chance if they'll listen. And then I've tried it where I don't do anything, and I've won matches that way as well. So I think prep time one, what I like to do is as soon as I get in, I look for who I know. So, you'll see everybody's names. So I'll look on the other side and I'll say, oh, look, Element is on Dragoon on that side. Okay, well, he's good. So we probably want to, snipe him first because I don't know who they're, or like I'll see their healer and it's like, well, I've never seen that healer ever. We might want to gang up on that healer because I might not be good. Or the other thing is I have a multiple monitor setup. So I'll open up the feast rankings, and some people I don't know, I'll just start looking for them on the leaderboard to see, well, maybe I should take double buff because this person's playing machinist for the first time in the feast kind of thing.
Right.
So those are some of the things that I look for. But I think in general it's good to have a consensus on what you're doing. Warriors like to build stacks off of a crate. So usually if you have a warrior, as soon as you pop in, you see you have a warrior tank, leave the defensive crate to him. Don't tap it so he can get 3 stacks of wrath.
Right.
Things like that. If you have a paladin, normally you'll get a divine veil before you rush in. So just knowing, okay, what is everyone's opener, and how you're gonna wait for Medica 2 with a white mage. You're gonna Astra's gonna give everybody their little shield before we go.
Right.
Things like
You
that.
also
Or
pay attention to what's on their team. Like if they have a black mage or a white mage, a good white mage, you have to care about the sleeps, and you might need to save your purifier for the healer if that's what their strategy is going to be. I think the most important thing to recognize is that on your team is to coordinate on what what player you're going to go on at the start, because
Hmm.
the coordination in solo queue doesn't really exist to do hard swaps, so you really have to decide to do a burst strategy. So you need to all coordinate and be like, hey, we're gonna kill the white mage, the monk, the whatever.
Hmm.
Right. And so also with monks too, with their stacks, I've had a few people who wanted to build stacks off the crates with monks. Is that some their stacks fall pretty quickly though, right? It's not something that
So
stays there.
they buffed the duration. It's about 24 seconds now.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I mean it's nice to have the right crate left all alone so you can build Grease Lightning 3, but it's not like make or break a game. Like you can just perfect balance at the start or
Right.
something.
But for a warrior, it's really nice to be able to get a fell cleave early, like a double or triple
Right.
fell cleave early. So,
Yeah,
but yeah,
that's probably way more important.
yeah,
All right. So if you see a warrior or a monk on your team, I just start thinking, hey, they need to be
right, build it.
hitting the stack. Just ignore the crates. Be ready to pick up a
Exactly,
buff if you're going to pick up a buff, but let them knock out the crates.
exactly.
Okay.
It's also something just real quick about warriors. It's not actually a bad idea to give the warrior the offense buff. If you have a warrior on your team, he's generally going to be left alone, and Fell Cleave is pretty huge burst. So if you have a solid warrior and he asks for the offense crate, like it's
Oh, they never
often,
ask. They just take it, man.
I mean, a solid warrior makes good use of the offense crate. It's not a waste. It's not a bust. Like if I know there's a good warrior and I know that the other team's going to focus me, I'll gladly give up the offense crate as a melee just to give it to the warrior.
I've seen that happen a few times, and at first I was really, really upset. I got to be honest. I was just like, I don't know. I wanted to strangle the guy. I was irate. I was like, why'd you do that? It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, it does make sense because that's really what warriors play in their role. Is kind of just a really offensive role in PvP. They do some other stuff with crowd control, but their main role is to burn things harder with them, right?
They're definitely the third DPS in that kind of composition. The other thing is, okay, do you play Dragoon or Monk?
Me?
Yes.
I play Machinist, man.
Oh, okay. Well, Machinist, there we go.
Yeah. So
Well, so if you think most strategies too in solo queue are okay, let's kill the guy with the attack buff, right? So when it's on the warrior, it's like okay, well, we're not going to kill the warrior probably, and
Right.
you're going to go after a DPS. So it just depends on your composition. But yeah, I like to give the warrior the offense buff as well.
okay. So don't give it to the paladin, though, right?
I've seen some
There's some
personally. I've
really
done
strong
some.
paladins out there.
Yeah, I've done some massive damage on Paladin too, especially with what's that move, Chyea, with the dot tick?
Full swing.
They've got no.
Goring blade.
Goring blade, yeah. So
Yeah,
Goring
Goring
blade, you put it on everybody, it'll tick.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
I mean,
no,
if you have-
don't give the red buff to the Paladin.
If you have like a very good experienced warrior and you have a mediocre melee, the warrior is going to make more use of the offense buff
Right.
than the melee is.
And you kind of these things where we say if it's experienced or not experienced, you start to pick up on these things.
Yeah, there's a pool of players that you're going to see over and over again if you're solo queuing, and you know they're good. You know that what they can do. You play against them and with them, and you generally trust in what they're capable of.
Yeah, and mostly it's if you guys see me on your team, let me get the defensive buff because they're going to kill me.
Oh, yeah.
Because usually they're like, oh, it's Frosty. I'm just going to shoot him and kill him as quickly as possible so he dies on his stream and they can see him
I do
kill him.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Happy has that problem too. They see Mr. Happy and they just go straight for him. So
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the thing. Like, if I have the defensive buff, I'm going to make most use out of it because I'm going to prevent the most damage by having it. As long as I stay alive, that is. I don't always stay alive with the defensive buff, but so all right. So that's kind of things to recognize when you have your team. But when you're looking across the field and you're seeing what the other team has, kind of what you're talking about, Chyea, is like when there's a black mage. This is like the biggest key point because it defines how you're going to use your purify, basically, right?
Yeah, if they have a CC heavy composition, your purify isn't exclusively for you. Like there's gonna be lots of games where warrior just doesn't purify anything. Like he just sits there. If you're a tank, you don't really purify much. So your purify should be used on other players, the DPS and the healer to escape from CC or brutal dots like fell swing or summoner's try disaster, stuff like that. Using the purify on other people really is a good sign of a good PvP player. Because if they're not going to use it often, ranged and tank especially, you should just be using it off cooldown on the person that is taking the most heat at the time.
So I guess another question is, when you have a black mage on the other team and you're a DPS or a tank or whatever using Purify, should you always use that on the healer, or should you ever use it kind of on yourself? Because in those situations, the healers can take sleep off you, right?
Yeah, so there's points where the tempo of the game is like, hey, if I purify the sleep, I can probably get a kill. That's points where you should really be purifying. Or like, if you're a tank and you need to peel for your healer and you're slept for 12 seconds, you should purify it. I want to talk about Black Mage real quick though, because Black Mage is in general, like, of the people playing it in solo queue right now, the worst class.
Oh,
like,
really?
Yeah, the worst class. People playing Black Mage don't know how to play Black Mage. There's maybe three or four on the ladder that I would respect as Black Mages, but everyone else is just very poor. It's a hard class to play. It's the hardest PvP class to play, but it's definitely the strongest.
Okay.
It's the class that does the most burst damage and has the most kill potential of any class in the game.
So it has the highest skill ceiling too, though. I mean,
yes, it has the highest skill ceiling. You need to be exceptional to play Black Mage properly. And bad Black Mage is just a detriment to the team every time.
Because I mean, I don't know. Everyone cusses and screams every time they see. When I see a Black Mage, I'm always just like angry. I'm like, most likely we got to kill him. If we don't kill him, they're gonna control us completely.
Yeah, but see, and then you get on the Black Mage, and the Black Mage just sits there, and he doesn't kite, and he doesn't, doesn't use his skills, and he just dies, and he can't get cast off because he's being interrupted. He can't get, and he can't really do much except for face tank and scathe, and get thunder procs. So you've basically, by getting on a Black Mage, you've negated him as a player.
Right. I want to actually talk a little bit about that too when you're focusing players, because I've also found this to be something that I kind of enjoy doing, is they will mark somebody to kill, and usually I want to be on that guy, right? And so I'm like, all right, so they want this person to die at the beginning of the game, whether it's melee, whether it's whatever it is, and so, okay, sure, yeah, I'll focus on this person, the offensive buff guy or whatever, and we try to kill him. It doesn't work. And then everyone kind of starts doing their own little thing for a while. They could be constantly just attacking him for almost no reason, because if you don't have burst up, it's really hard to kill somebody with a good healer, right?
Yep, burst is the key. There's damage that two DPS can do that is absolutely unhealable.
Yeah.
The healer cannot keep you up. It is not possible within the limitations of this game. So you can't blame your healer when the burst like that comes. You have to be ready. So, for example, if you're a melee, and the melee often do get focus first because they have the offense buff, it's your responsibility to purify this full swing, to pop stuff like Foresight and Keen Flurry, or start kiting back. Like, for example, as a monk or dragoon, one of the best tactics to start learning is you start taking heat, and you start kiting backwards toward your spawn, and just keep kiting them backwards, they'll use your stuns, they'll use their gap closures to catch up with you, and then you use a gap closer to hit their healer far away. So you've just crossed the distance of the map away from them, and they have to run to you because they use their gap closures to catch up to you, and you use yours to get away. And that saves you 2 to 3 GCDs. That's a excellent skill for a melee kiter to have, because even though you're a melee, you can still negate their damage by kiting.
Right. I mean, that's a excellent. I haven't thought of that, but I mean, I play machinist where I don't feel like I really have anything defensively.
Well, you do. You
I
have
a stun gun, right?
You have the
blank.
bind.
Blank.
Yeah,
Now, blank is such
bind.
a goofy. All right, so blank isn't immediate, right? And so you hit it,
right?
And they could move anywhere
They could
within
move
like half a second, and then
right.
you totally knock them the complete opposite way. The biggest use I found from blank is knocking off paladins from people they're covering, because if you blank somebody that's being covered, it goes to the paladin.
Right. And stuff like getting people out of the sacred soil or the sacred prism.
You're right. That too.
Yeah.
But doesn't. I mean, it does save me some, so I can push somebody back and I can bind them, or push someone back and slow them.
Or slow them. Yeah.
Yeah. Bind I don't like it, especially if anyone on my team might be attacking them, because more often than not,
people will break it.
Yeah, people usually break it because they're not focusing on one thing, or I have to kind of watch what they're doing, which becomes daunting after a while. I mean, right now I'm still adjusting to being super aware of everything, which I want to jump into a little bit more too later. But so I have that, right? I have stun gun. The other thing I have is dismantle and rend mine, which is really good to put on somebody when they're about to do their burst.
Do their opener, yep.
So one of the things that you have when you're kiting and when you're trying to maneuver and when you're trying to get away from people, because a lot of the game revolves around kiting and avoiding burst, is that you have to realize that when you get into a game, you only have a set number of GCDs to spend. You
Mhm.
only have X number of GCDs, and when you are kiting, you have to be aware that you're trading GCDs on your target for GCDs on you. So the goal of the kite is to make them waste more GCDs catching up, or sprinting, or doing not burst maneuvers, while you're still getting GCDs on people that you want to be killing. So uh, the monk kiting thing is an example. Like you're constantly hitting them while kiting back, and you're using a gap closer to escape from their burst while they're just running back and not pressing their buttons. And same thing with white mage, astro, um, scholar kiting, because the healers do a lot of running around. When you're kiting as a healer, one of the goals is that, hey, I want to be using my sprints while their sprints are down, and I want to be using your attunements when their burst is coming. So generally, when I play healer, I play a lot of healer games. I don't have I have the melee or the range that either one that the one that I think is best focus target. So when they start popping buffs, I know that I need to be using my cooldowns in response to that, or tuning right when they have like their full barrage combo up.
Right. And that's a really high level of detail to jump into and start noticing these things.
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
saying. I'm just saying when you're kiting, you just have to be aware of what you're using to get away compared to what they're spending to catch up.
Right. And it's okay. So kiting again, another thing that's extremely valuable within a game, and what you're talking about does make a lot of sense too. But I kind of want to bring that back to the same section we're talking about is where burst are kill points. So when you're kiting someone that doesn't have burst ready, um, how much are you actually doing to kind of help the game? Does it matter as much when you're kiting
It
at
really
them?
depends on the class. So there are certain classes with really short cooldown burst. Monk is an example. They only really need about a minute between burst combos to get the burst going. Um, but classes like Dragoon and I believe Bard and Machias kind of have some long cooldowns, um, about 2
60,
minutes long.
well, 90 seconds is kind of where I put the burst at. And I consider two burst for me. I don't consider just one burst. I consider wildfire its own burst. I don't clump it together with, and I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong with how I'm thinking about this, but wildfire is a burst, and then between the eyes is a burst.
Yeah, so the between the eyes burst is the one that's by far more deadly. Like
Right?
between the eyes
No,
is a broken skill. So yeah,
it's pretty
any
strong. Yeah. Are you stuck? I think Chia just got stuck.
hello.
Yeah, you there? You
Yeah.
there? Okay.
The burst from a machinist with
Yeah.
between the eyes is one of the unhealable bursts. Like when you're doing an OGCE that does 6,000 damage when it crits, that's over everyone. That's over half of everyone's HP.
Right.
So, so that's the stuff that you have to be ready to negate. That's the stuff that you can't heal through. That's the stuff that you have to have cooldowns for, foresight, cover. You have to stun the machinist. So
Mm-hmm.
when
Well,
we're talking about bursts of that caliber, the
yeah.
really hard level burst, you can't play around. You can't just take it. You have to be ready to kite or move around walls and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. And the reason I'm talking about wildfire being a burst as well in this, because it makes no sense for me to wildfire someone I'm about to kill.
Yeah, yeah, you have to. It's a slow and steady thing. And when the wildfire's ticking down, you can use a few OGCDs and then bam, you've just done like 7,000 damage.
Yeah, you can do a lot of damage, and a lot of times it doesn't get purified off because they're purifying other things off.
Exactly. Wildfire is not a huge priority target unless they just have a spare purify.
Yeah,
I would rather purify like a sleep or a full swing than a wildfire.
right. So, anyways, going into that too, when people are kiting, and I find this a hard thing for me to get into too, is kiting, because when I kite, I have to turn my barrel off to run around and shoot people. And it doesn't do nearly as much damage as it does if I had my barrel on, because barrel negates a lot of that distance factor that comes into the fact, because, range gets nerfed if they're not a certain distance away.
Right.
And so kiting, when you kite, do you always really have to sprint for it to be even remotely effective?
No, you can just be jumping backwards. Like
Yep. You can be. Oh, I think you cut out.
no, you can just be jumping back. You can just be walking backwards, strafing backwards. And just because of the natural latency of the game, it's going to put you out of range because they're not reacting as fast as you're moving.
Okay. Would be jumping around them be a good option
No,
too?
I mean jumping. I don't believe actually does anything, but people do jump just because it's
Well, not
doesn't cost.
jumping like, but going around them, like going behind them and in front of them, and
Well, it's like League of Legends too, like any PvP, juking. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, especially even the original Wolves Den. If someone's chasing me and I run around the corner and Blizzard 2 and freeze them there, then I can essentially kite them out of that. Or I run around the corner and fake them and then run back around. They'll continue. Like when you go back to the platform to turtle, you
hmm
get up on top. I've run towards the edge and had a tank follow me, and then I stop at the edge and he runs off the edge. So
right.
that's an effective way to kite too. So just the jumping thing. I don't personally do the jumping thing. I guess it psychs out a lot of people too. They're like, oh God, he's jumping. Why is he jumping? You know. But yeah, just being able to. The kiting entails the juking and running around and line of sighting too.
Right.
If I've got you on me as a machinist, then I'm going to I see your I can if I got you targeted, I see you charging up an attack with your Gauss barrel. So I'll just run around the corner and you can't hit me. I'm
Right.
behind a wall. So that's a way to kite you, so you can't get your burst off on me.
It's really nice too because people don't really have that timing down too. So they're like, yeah, I'm gonna go behind the wall to avoid the machinist, but they always do it like half a second late, and they die
They get
behind the wall.
shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know all about that.
Yeah. So we've actually hit a whole bunch of topics I didn't even put on here, which is really good because all of these are really good points to talk about. But I'm going to bring it back to that starting prep time real quick. And I want to talk about when you enter a match, are there jobs, and Chyea, you want to talk about this a good bit, are there jobs that you see that you're like, well, I probably lost a game because this job's...
Black Mage by far. Like
Okay.
Black Mage over anything else. If I have a Black Mage on my team, they have to be stellar because they're so hard to play and they're so hard to do play properly that any bad Black Mage is just gonna be worse than any other DPS.
Right. And so
I don't
is
really
it really
mind.
just Black Mage? Is that it?
Well, Scholar
Uh,
Scholar is kind of like the weakest of the healers, but it's easier to play a good Scholar than a good Black Mage.
Black Mage for sure.
Okay. And so if you see them on the other team, you're like, well, I probably won this game. If you see them on your team, Black Mage says, then you're like, well, it's going to be really hard to win.
It's almost reverse psychology. When you see him on the other team, you're like, oh crap, he might be good.
But he
So
might,
it's
be
like
the best. He might be
right.
like the
So
nuts
that's so yeah. He could be terrible. Like when it's on your team, you're automatically like, okay, this guy's gonna now I have to work extra hard as the melee or as the tank to make up for the DPS that he's not doing because he's going
Right.
to be half casting sleeps and not getting him off, things like that. No DPS. So when he's on my team, it sucks. But when he's on the other team, you assume the worst or assume the best, I guess.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Do you ever like start, and this is just complete tangent, but do you ever like start up a match and you see someone like, you see a Black Mage on your team, do you type, do you know what you're doing?
No, I mean I don't.
No.
You don't ever have that spike? where it's really
Well, I
like-
mean, no, I'm sure internally we do. Absolutely we do. But I mean, everyone uses the word toxic all the time. I think especially solo queue. Solo queue is it's just a very tense, game match mode to play in. So it's just, I've had people where you say, hey, you should swap out this accuracy for this. And they say, I'm AFKing. Don't tell me how to play the game. It's like, oh, okay, well, maybe I should just not said anything.
Right. Every time I do a PvP match, I record it, and I go back and I look through it a lot. And this is something to do while I'm waiting in queue, if I want to just stay completely focused on PvP. And this is part to do with the stream that I do with PvP. But when I'm going over it, and I have these situations where people are like yelling at me, and they're like, "You should do this more. You didn't do burst right. You did something wrong." I like going back in that video and saying, all right, well, where did I start messing up? There's a good chance I didn't mess up anywhere. That I was, I'm going to say, let me.
Everyone
all right.
always messes up.
Yeah,
Everyone
I
in
need
every
to-
game messes up.
Exactly, Chyea. I totally messed up that. That's what I mean. Is that I didn't make any like super major mistakes, like obvious glaring mistakes. There's always things that I could do better. I know there's things that I can do better every single time, but there's also obvious mistakes that you're making, like not hitting a cooldown right, not binding a target before you hit between the eyes, something like that. That's really coming down on you. Or if you die because 3 of the people on the other team are always focusing you 24/7, and you have 3 medals on you, and then they're complaining about you not having enough burst, but you never had a chance to even move. I mean, there's like in that position, what do you guys do if you know one person is going to be targeted the entire match? I mean, you need to. Is your main focus staying alive and just running around? Because it doesn't matter if you die
Here's
at
the
that
thing.
point, right?
That could be a really bad strat. Like if someone's targeting someone over and over, I mean, it just depends on, I guess, the skill level, like who you're playing with, because one, that's not yielding the medals, right?
Hmm.
So in the higher matches, you're taking out the threats and then you're farming medals. Like that's the point. It's an objective based PvP map.
Right.
So for me, there's not really a benefit to farming someone over and over and over. Like, oh, Frosty does the most damage, I need to kill him over and over and over.
Hmm.
I think like once you don't have the medals, like I've had situations where it is effective to kill their healer over and over and over, because every time the healer's up, they can stay alive. But if we eliminate the healer, then
Oh, you totally cut out there for a second, champ. Champ, you're completely quiet. I don't hear you
Okay.
at all. There you go. Now you're back.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
Logitech. If you're
Yeah.
watching Logitech, I hate your headphones.
Layla would
No,
agree.
yeah. So yeah. I don't think that's an effective strategy. I've used it before, but in general, it's just not an effective strategy to farm one person over and over. Now, like let's say we get Chyea in a match, right? Me and you versus Chyea,
Hmm.
and that might be something like a red flag. Like, hey, maybe we should put a lot of pressure on him because he is exponentially better than his teammates, right?
Right.
So that could be a situation where you do put pressure on one person over and over.
Okay. And so, are there situations that you just can't live in the game if people are always focusing? They all know what they're doing. And they're all targeting.
The damage that people can do outstrips the amount of communication you can set.
Okay. So if everyone starts focusing you, there's almost, if they're coordinated properly and they have all their bursts lined up and everything, the entire time they're burning everything on you. Should you feel bad that you're dying every time? Is there a way that you can get out of that?
I mean, if you're doing everything you can, I mean, it's especially with solo queue.
Hmm.
I was watching this guy talking about climbing the ladder in League of Legends. Very toxic community. You can
Right,
be
right,
paired with
right.
a lot of people. He basically said, don't worry about what other people's performance is in a solo queue setting. Worry about what you're doing and making sure that you can do. So if you know that, look, I'm doing everything I can and I'm dying over and over and over, but I'm really doing everything I can, then I mean, no, I don't think you should beat yourself up. I've had matches where I go in there and they just burst me every time. It's like, okay, well, either I'm not keeping up or the healer's not keeping up. But what does me telling the healer, hey, you need to heal harder, post match, what does that do? It's not going to improve his gameplay because I'll probably never see him again. You know what I mean? So all I can do is focus on what I'm doing, and improve for the next match.
Okay, I gotcha. All right, so the other thing that I wanted to actually talk to you guys about with kind of setting up everything, how much communication do you guys normally have in the first minute of the game?
I just tell people who to kill. I just say get on this person, and then I'll um, I'll mark one for the target I'm on, and hopefully the other DPS is with me.
So tell him about your little experiment. Yeah.
Early on in the season, I was like, hey, it's trivial, actually trivial, if you have four people on TeamSpeak versus people who don't get on TeamSpeak against the other team. So if you have everyone on TeamSpeak on your team, you're generally going to win. And they don't have to play well. They just have to listen. They just have to, hey, I'm bursting this target. Hey, we have to back now. Hey, the healer needs mana. You just have to listen.
Hmm.
But no one joined TeamSpeak.
Yeah.
Like, I post TeamSpeak before every match. I made a macro and everything, and no one joined. So I tried really hard to get coordination through voice comms on in the game, but
Hmm.
the community itself just was like, whatever, who cares?
Which
Don't
blows
be
my
TeamSpeak.
mind, because if I were in a match with someone and someone said, "Hey, I'm on a voice chat right now," it's like, yeah, absolutely, I want to be able to communicate with you. So
Like,
it blows my mind that people. I mean, you get, like, I was playing Overwatch recently, right? And it has voice inside the game. When I can just press the talk while I'm playing the game, and it's so, like, the matches with voice versus without are just so different, because I'm not, when I'm trying to burst someone, I'm not going to stop and use my keyboard to say, hey, switch to this target or anything like that. I've got certain macros to say attack this target, so on and so forth, but I can't type that out. I need to be on a voice comm or have a macro set up. So voice is just, it's pivotal.
Right.
it's unbeatable advantage to have people who are far less skilled on voice comm compared against far more skilled players without voice comms. The less skilled players are still going to have a huge advantage because they know what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
But the experiment fails, and I've just given up.
It's hard. I think to come from the other side of that too is when people are joining up for it. Sometimes they don't want to be social with people. They don't want
But
to deal with that.
it's a
Yeah, I
four v
know. I
four.
know.
Like
I
you
know.
play with other people and you want to win, right? The
Yeah.
best chance you have of winning is to
Right.
coordinate.
See, and that's why I don't know. I'm in the camp. I respect everyone. Everyone pays their own subscription. Everyone can play however they want. However, it's just like me and Chyea were talking about this last night. I'm fine with anybody doing whatever they want as long as it doesn't affect me and as long as whatever I'm doing doesn't affect, you know what I mean, that kind of thing. But like, okay, when you go into a competitive, a ranked game, I expect you to want it as much as I want it. You know what I mean? Like this, we're playing to win. If we lose, I go down in rating. So if you just want to play for fun, then people might get mad, but play AV8. Like that's fun, and you can learn PvP, and you can still get the same experience. But in the 4v4 setting, it's like you come in and then you don't want to communicate, you don't want to play, you want to do whatever you want. Well, it's a 4-man coordinated team attack. Like that's the objective to work as a 4-man team. And so that bothers me when people come in and they don't want to communicate with you, or they go off on their own, or the warrior takes the defensive buff and like it's like what? Because he's playing however he wants.
Yeah, Yojo has a good point here in chat. If they're on PlayStation 4, I mean, they can use their phone for it, right? Just so they can
Yeah,
go.
okay, listen. I mean, I don't expect 100% of every person to get on TeamSpeak and install TeamSpeak and everything like that. Like it's unfeasible to just have everyone come on TeamSpeak. I'm just saying that the amount of people that came on TeamSpeak was far lower than I expected.
Like almost 0%.
No,
Right?
I mean maybe like 10%. Like
Okay.
there were some familiar faces that I saw and they came on, but it doesn't really help to have like me and the healer or me and the tank. You really want both DPS.
Mm-hmm.
On the voice comp because that helps
Right.
out the most.
The burst, yeah, the coordinated burst is what matters in solo queue. Like that's the strategy you have to go for, is the coordinated burst.
Right.
So
that makes a lot of sense because I mean, yeah, if you get both those bursts up there, then it completely destroys
You
somebody.
can say you can say like I have tornado kick and I have dreadworm. You just press those two buttons at the same time. It's very hard to heal through.
Right. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I agree. It's going to be really hard to convince the community to get into that point. If there were more people out there playing PvP, it'd be a little bit easier because then you'd have a higher pool of serious players out there. But how many people do you queue up with that are trying to actually communicate with you at the very beginning of the match? It's usually like one person, right?
Yeah, I mean, as you climb up, you generally get the more coordinated, focused people. Like generally, like all the platinum plate people, they know what they need to do in terms of coordination. There are some players who just they go off and do their own things, but everyone at the higher rank, high gold, platinum, diamond, they know that coordination is key, and they're willing to play ball. Like they're willing to if they don't come on TeamSpeak,
right.
but they'll have macros, they'll have marks set up and everything.
Mm-hmm. All right. So if someone avoiding TeamSpeak from it, I mean, a TeamSpeak would be awesome to have people actually kind of do that too.
It's the next level. I don't expect people to go that far.
Right.
Maybe season 2.
Maybe season 2.
Yeah.
Maybe if I just keep spamming it, it'll get through people's
Just
heads.
keep it up, man. Eventually, people are gonna. You're probably really well known on the Aether data center. You have to be, right?
I don't know if I am.
Because they see you in the PvP matches all the time, and so they'll recognize, hey, Chia's out there. Yeah, we kill him as soon as possible. I'm sure that's what people think.
No. See, here's the problem though. When you're playing a high rank, you only get versed against other high ranks. Sorry, I should make this more clear. When I'm queuing, I get silver, gold, and I'm the plat, and the other team is like plat, silver, gold. So
I get silver, gold, and myrrh. I have to Jesus.
So the people that I generally queue with aren't the most PvP centric. They're the people who are still climbing, the people who are still up the ladder. So I don't ever get to really play with the other platinum players all that often. I don't think I've ever had a game with 2 platinums on it. So it's rare to see.
There's not a lot of platinums out there.
Yeah, so I'm saying that I'm the one facing when the higher ranked people queue against each other, they're only facing each other, and they never have a chance to coordinate with each other.
What do you mean? They're against each other every time,
Yeah,
so they're
they're
never
against
on the
each-
same team. Okay,
Exactly.
yeah.
Right.
So it's the people with the like mindset, they're on opposite teams.
You got to get the gold guys involved, man.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, that's a sweet spot.
You need silver and gold. Listen, if I could have it, here's what I would do. I would have silver ranged, gold healer, silver tank. Like that's the composition you learn the most. If you have a good healer, you can carry as a melee. Like you can carry by yourself, but you need to have a good healer.
Right.
So like, are you familiar with Nex Cross?
Yeah, I know the name. I know he's at the
He's the
top,
best
right?
monk.
Fantastic monk. He won without a good healer. He's still good, but what he can accomplish with a great healer is just he can obliterate the other team just one after the other after the other if he's being supported well. That goes the same for the front lines. If you watch him in front lines, he's got a healing, like a support system, and he's amazing. He's just fantastic. He doesn't waste any. There's no GCD that's being wasted when you're playing with him. So like him, he can carry. Absolutely carry. And if he has a great healer, it's just he's carrying that much harder,
So like at the high ranks, every time I queue in, every time I try and get into a game, I'm always praying for a good healer, because like a poor tank like often doesn't make or break the game, and in poor range, it's kind of annoying. Like you kind of want that burst, but if you have a healer that just doesn't let anyone die, you're eventually going to be able to get a kill off, because a melee can solo a healer by themselves, given the right set of cooldowns and given the right opportunity.
Which makes me upset because Chyea was white mage for a month, and then he switched to melee, and he was such a good healer.
I finished the white.
He
mage
got the achievement, of course,
so
and
I have to switch to melee now.
but it sucks for me because I'm queuing as a DPS, and now I don't have a good healer because he's out of the pool. He's playing.
Right. Yeah, and I kind of, I'm thinking about that a lot too, and I want to switch to like a white mage or like some healer just so
It's
I
not
get
worth
faster.
it.
Astrologian.
It's okay.
Astrologian.
Astro by far the best healer, but it's not worth it, man.
I don't
Sometimes
think
you
it's
just
worth
get
it.
the absolute worst DPS. Like
Well,
culling 5 DPS.
Chyea can tell you the stats too. Like all the top-rated healers are sitting at like 50% win rates. Because it's literally a trade-off every time.
Yeah. So like the best healers in the game are at 60%. Like they're 60 to 55 to 60%, and they can't get higher than that because as a healer you don't kill people, and the whole point
Right.
of Feast is killing people.
Killing. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I guess that makes a lot of sense because also when I'm facing other people and they mark somebody and we're making no progress on them, I switch immediately to the healer and try to take them on by myself.
Yeah, healer, putting pressure on the healer, if you can't kill anybody else, it's a good way, because even the best healers struggle when there's 2 people taking damage at the same time. Like you have to trade your GCDs, and then a quick burst on one or the other person is going to kill them. Like, can I talk real quick about how to kill a healer as a melee?
Yeah, do it.
Okay, so as a melee, a dragoon or monk, I don't really know about ninja, but as a dragoon or monk, when you have your cooldowns up, you can kill a healer in 2 GCDs. So all you do as a melee is when you have your internal release, your blood for blood, everything ready to go, your tornado kick, your jump, your gear skoggle, just your cooldowns are off cooldown. You just have to switch to the healer. You have to get them to 60%. The other DPS will be wailing on the range of the other melee, so they're putting pressure there. Healers healing the other guys. You get them to 60%. Stun, jump, or tornado kick, or chakra, or whatever. Stun again with your other stun, spine shard dive, or shoulder tackle, and then bam, healer's dead. Healer's going to die if you have your cooldowns up, and you just stun them twice while they're at 60%.
Right.
It's almost universal. Only the best healers will be able to notice that, purify, or get an instant cast off immediately.
Well, I mean, machinists can do that too.
Yeah, machinists too.
But they have to get crits for sure. I mean, all of this really involves getting crits, right?
No, you don't need a crit. You don't need a crit with a dragoon or a monk. But I mean, machinists also have the between the eyes combo, which is just as deadly. Like between the eyesing for 4K or whatever, that's over half the healer's HP total in a GCD.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm saying that if you're a competent melee and a competent machinist or competent bard actually is also huge at doing burst. You can pretty easily solo a healer, and don't be afraid to try it. But you have to be competent. You have to be ready to know when you're pressing your cooldowns.
Right.
And it doesn't work against the very best healers. Like the absolute best healers, they'll see it coming and they'll know what to do.
Right. And I don't know. I feel like at my league, that's like the most important thing for me to do too. Is even if I don't have burst, I usually switch to the healer.
So killing the healer is actually the most valuable person to kill, because it gives you the most tempo. It forces the other team to go back. So it gives you access to the crates. It gives you access to. It makes them burn their cooldowns, makes them burn their covers, their sprints, their basically whatever. And it often gets you a kill because if you just stun lock, the melee or the ranged, you also get 2 kills for the price of 1. So focusing the healer right off the bat is often not a bad strategy in comparison to focusing the melee.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's absolutely fantastic. Look at the cat.
She keeps meowing, sorry.
It's all right. I don't hear her at all. So Mike's working out great. But yeah, so, and I was thinking about this in the eyes of just a machinist, just because I have silence, I have slow, I have stuns, I have a few other things. I guess using a Red Mine on a healer wouldn't be a bad idea, but I don't know. Because
does Red Mine affect them?
Magic, well, I don't know if it's just magic damage or if
I think it's magic damage.
If it's magic overall.
I think as well.
Okay, well then, yeah, maybe not. But just getting them locked up and just confused and, blank shotting them. So silence and blanking is 20-second cooldowns, right? So I have 2 that
The silence on Machinist is actually basically a stun on the healer. It's another stun because, like, on the White Mage or an Astro, you just can't heal.
With no diminishing effect.
Silence,
right?
No, I think
it has a
if Paladin has the spirits with or whatever it is, I think it does have diminishing effects.
No,
so if
but still
you silence, yeah.
But you only need one to silence for me is if it works at all. So I guess after 4, then it matters because I mean, it doesn't matter how long a silence is to me because it's a 2-second silence. I think for me, the point is that I'm interrupting them, and then I can interrupt them again with a blank. And then I can also, if they are not resistant to stun, which I've almost found everyone's immune to stun constantly. I don't know. I never be able to.
Well, see, that's the meta. So once you start getting good, you know everybody's diminishing returns. Like I'm watching the Paladin, and he's locking down the White Mage. Well, I know as Dragoon, okay, if he's doing that strategy, then do not put any of my stuns on them because my stuns are weaker. Yeah, and then I also know, like, okay, well, then the White Mage is going to be back ready for stun, in X amount of time. So that's like having that kind of situational awareness to know who has what DRMs right now, and like, okay, this guy's going to be immune to sleep after this one. This guy's got stun up in a couple seconds. We can start stun locking him again. That's really, really important, especially.
And that's insane. You don't gain these abilities until you have 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 games under your belt.
No. You just need to know that for the first time someone is stunned, they need to wait. You need to wait 90 seconds before they unclear from stunned. I actually think it's a minute, but I just wait 90 seconds.
Well, I mean, and then there's other people who come in and stun and mess with that timing too.
Yeah,
right?
but the stun only affects from the first stun actually happening. That's when the DR actually starts.
The DR, yeah.
So if they're so let's say they're stunned, and then 60 seconds later they're stunned within a span of 10 seconds.
And then 20 seconds later they'll be off DR.
Okay, so the first stun is all that really matters then.
The first stun, yes, the first stun is the one
initial.
That matters.
Why didn't I know that? I feel like
because you were Paladin main in 2.0.
That's true. You remember I was a Paladin main.
I do.
Oh, that's great. We did a lot of FanFest stuff with me as Paladin. That's right. And I was like, I'm not. Oh no, we did it with me as Warrior, I think. So I went Warrior, then Paladin, then Machinist. And now Scholar, but completely different.
Going back to school.
Going back to school, yeah. So that's really interesting to know. That way, whoever gets the first stun can kind of time that stuff out a lot better, I guess. All right, and so the next thing, to kind of go forward a little bit more here, which I think is a really just general concept that will help a lot of people going out there. People who need to improve awareness, which we talked a little bit about throughout the last, I don't know, we've already been on air for about like an hour. But awareness is a huge key to PvP. What are some things players can do to start slowly building up that awareness? What are things they can say, hey, I'm going to just start focusing on that so I can make sure that I'm always trained to focus on that?
Well, the most aware thing that they should be focusing on first is where the healer is and what the healer needs to...
I was going to say.
It's like what the healer needs. Like, if
your healer or their healer?
Yours.
No, well, your healer. Your healer.
Okay.
You want to be peeling for your healer as much as possible.
Okay. You cut out there, Chyea. You back?
Sorry. Yeah. So if your healer is soft or more squish, you need to be ready to carry them. Like, you need to be ready to just say, hey, I need to pacify. I need to stun. I need to be able to help them out. So as long as you can give that support to your healer, it's generally going to be an easier time climbing up.
Okay. And so what's the best way someone in general can start peeling off a healer? What are things that
Well,
just general
first
moves
off,
people shouldn't
okay,
be
so
using?
first off, if you're a melee, you have stuns
Hmm.
that you can use. If you're a monk, in particular, you have axe kick, which is it's like a 10-second stun because they're just pacified.
Hmm.
So you if you see your healer getting focused or tuned or something, you just go there and you axe kick them, and then bam, you have saved their life.
Okay. That's actually, yeah, that
And
pacify
stuff like
sucks
and
because I
stuff
don't want to purify pacify usually.
exactly, no,
All
you
right.
definitely don't.
Right.
And stuff like Paladin cover, Paladin Tetsudo,
Hmm.
Warrior Mithril Tempest, that's a knockback.
Hmm.
And Dragoon, not Dragoon, Dark Knight's hard to use, but they have what's it called? What's that thing
You're talking
called?
about the pit.
Yeah, no, is it the Pit? Carnal
You're talking
Chill.
about the
Carnal
one
Chill.
Carnal Chill. Yeah.
Hmm.
Carnal Chill is
No,
also a really
nobody
strong
plays
ability.
Dark Knight in
Yeah,
in,
no one
in
plays.
PvP.
Yeah.
That's why we don't know.
Fair enough.
It's
Yeah.
it's rare to see a good Dark Knight.
Yeah.
They do a fair amount of damage though. Dark Knight
Yeah,
is not a
I've seen
bad
some
class.
massive damage. Yeah.
No
Just
one's
it's
really
just
mastered it yet.
yeah. No one really plays it to the level that's Warrior is probably much easier and does more damage. So that's why everyone
Right.
goes to Warrior.
Right.
Yeah, well, it's just like astrology. Like if you jump on Astro rather than jumping on White Mage, you'll fare better because White Mage has a higher skill cap. To do the slows, the sleeps, and the heals and
Exactly.
things
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that.
White Mage gives you more CC, but Astro Throughput is unbeatable. They do
Right.
so much healing.
Hmm.
Aspected Benefic or whatever it is, just press that and win.
Yeah. All right. And so,
So something I want to talk about Astros real quick. Is
yeah,
that
do
cool?
it.
All right. So Astro the meta is to use Noct stance. Noct isn't the right stance to be using. You want
Okay,
you
you
want
need to you need to
You want to
clarify
use
this for a lot
diurnal,
of
yeah.
you
yeah.
want to use diurnal. Diurnal gives you so much more healing than Noct does. The only reason Noct is good is if that's the only button you're pressing. But you're not supposed to be doing that. You have to measure your benefics and your benefic twos.
Okay. This is an
So
excellent point that you're bringing up too, because I was streaming PvP the other night, and someone was like, "Oh, what's he doing? Why isn't he in dark? Why isn't he in binaural? That doesn't make any sense. This is really bad." But we did great in that game, and so
diurnal gives you much more healing per your MP than Noct does, just because the regions are so powerful from Helios and Benefic. But you don't get the ability to have more on an emergency. Like if you have to press someone to heal in a single GCD, the aspected benefit while moving is better in Noct stance. But I really do think the regen stance is the one you want to be using in most games.
okay, because I mean you're dealing with a healer that's both basically only focusing on emergencies versus one that's actually
Well,
proactively throwing regions.
the thing that's most important about Astro is that if you use Benefic, you can fish for a aspected Benefic or the Benefic 2 proc that makes the instant cast.
Hmm.
So you have that emergency heal on tap every X seconds or if you get a proc. So you don't need to really worry about the emergency heals as long as you're using Benefic as your primary healing thing.
Hmm.
And you can then use your regen stance to give you much more healing per your MP.
Right. Okay. So I guess that makes sense. The only thing is like when burst happen, or you're
Noct
not.
isn't going to save you though from the good burst though. It's like Noct is nice, but with the nerfs, it's not a huge help.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense to me then. All right, so back to the awareness part though. To pull that back over there.
Another thing for DPS to be aware of is their own cooldowns. You only have a set number of cooldowns you can use per match because you only get 3 or 4
Right.
internal releases or whatever. You need to be able to stack them properly because a stacked cooldown is way better than using them staggered.
Oh yes. Yeah.
So you want to be aware that hey, now I need to be pressing internal release blood for blood at the same time instead of just staggering them on different cooldowns.
Right, and it's good to use those in between your moves too, right? So you're
Yes,
not just
of
like
course, yes. You need to be
Yeah.
using them OGCD so that you're always pressing a button, always pressing a damaging skill button, and not worrying about
Your buffs.
the GCDs putting up your buffs.
I
Right.
think that's a huge thing that I definitely harp on a lot. Machinist, especially at the very beginning of games, I think are kind of accustomed to doing their PvE thing. Where say, well, we're about to pull, I'm buffing everything before I pull. And so they're used to just going down a row of buffs and then doing their stuff. But if they're actually going out and building their stacks and everything properly in between all that, they're going to get a burst a lot quicker and more efficient one. And I think people have to kind of go back to that fact that if you're not, and I mean, this is in PvE too, and people should really be paying attention to this, is that you always have OGCDs going in between your GCDs. The only fact that I would say that is not as valuable as is if you're saving it for your burst, right?
Yes, you have to be saving.
Right.
Like you should be saving as much as possible for your for your final burst things. Like you don't want to be using them just willy nilly.
Well, I mean, like when we're talking about like 20-second OGCDs, like those kind of GCDs. When you're
Like
popping
the
those,
silence stuff like that.
yeah.
Yeah. If you can use those freely, yeah, go for it. But you want to be saving the big GCs like between the eyes for the big burst.
Oh yeah. That's always there at the very end of it, and or not. Actually, it's in the middle of my burst because clean shots like so it goes clean shot, eye between the eye, then slug shot. I think is how I do it, and I get the most because maybe I'll get another clean shot after that too. I should be getting one at least.
So help me with something on Machinist burst. When Machinist is bursting, do they use the stun gun as part of the burst combo?
I do not. Now
I do
here's the reason why I don't use it is because again, I'm betting diminishing effects. Someone else didn't like get that already lined up. Bind always. I've never have an issue with bind almost. Bind always works, but you have to be quick. You have to be really quick, and you have to time it. It's kind of like a ninjutsu almost. Like you can mess up a ninjutsu by
Are
pressing
you
the
talking
button.
about bind for the between the eyes?
Yeah. So
So
basically,
like yeah.
yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead. You go.
No,
you know
I
what
was
you're
going to
talking
say that I was going to hit bind, and as soon as I hit bind, I have to spam between the eyes. But I have to make sure bind goes off first too. That's another thing is that when you're dealing with all that and you're dealing with the timers of OGCDs not overlapping, because you can think you hit something and you do hit it, but it's not on the tick to actually activate.
Something that people. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so that's the one thing that I found that I've ran into issues with before. And then the reason for using bind is because it's a ranged ability that doesn't require me to, and stun I have to be right up next to him, right? Stun gun and both my the stun ability I have to be right next to him. But bind is a ranged ability, so that's
So
why it happens.
something that people don't actually realize about the game, or they don't, it's not immediately clear, is that Final Fantasy XIV is actually a turn-based RPG, just immensely sped up.
Right.
So what you see on the screen doesn't actually matter. It matters what's actually the buttons being pressed and it's going into combat log. I'll give you an example that I'm very clear with. Tornado Kick. Tornado Kick has a huge animation, but it appears in the combat log instantly, or it registers on the server instantly. So oftentimes a healer will attune, and my Tornado Kick will be in the middle of the animation, and they'll die with the attunement at 8 seconds left on the buff.
Right.
So when people say, hey, I attuned through that or that's bullshit, it's not actually it's not actually the case. It's because the game itself is it's it's a turn-based RPG that latency doesn't really matter. It's about the order in which people do moves.
Right. And
So
I
when
agree with
you're
that.
gonna tune, when you're gonna do a burst combo, or when you're gonna LB and stuff like that, you have to be aware of what's already in the queue.
And that's why I kill people when they run behind walls.
Yeah, exactly. So like, there's often times where I've LB people behind pillars, like they've run 1,000 yams away and they're just dead because the server has already registered the LB. The
And
animation is just icing
that's
on
why
the cake.
Chyea dies the weight of the land when he runs out of it and he says, I was out of that.
No, listen, no. When I died to a PvE ability, I realized that what's actually happening on the screen isn't what's actually happening in the game. That's
right.
one of the most important things to realize when you play Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of time why people don't like PvP in the game. That's one of the things
Yeah,
that
no,
steer
it is.
people away.
It's definitely the you have to get exceptionally used to the fact that the animations aren't corresponding to the damage that's going through.
Yeah, and that's hard for some people, but in the end, I don't know. I just got used to it after a while, and I enjoy PvP a lot. If they changed it, it would throw everything off. I would be happy if they changed it.
It would look. I mean, I would be happy to change this too, but it would just feel weird because I've been playing this game for like 2 years, and like if they made it more, if they made the netcode better, that'd be great for the game overall and be awesome. But it just feels weird sometimes to have your attunement at like 8 seconds and you die through attunement for a 4K tornado kick or something.
Yeah, yeah. No, and just going back to one of our previous episodes, we were talking about the European servers when they switched over, and they were all used to dealing with horrible latency. That's what they were doing the entire time. And as soon as they switched it over, it took them weeks to adjust to that.
Right, to calibrate.
Yeah, because that is insane what the difference does when you're able to put in two OGCDs between moves a lot more often than not. So yeah, I think people need to understand that when they're going into PvP, and it feels clunky in a way. But once you actually understand how it's all working, for me at least, it feels normal. It feels like that's just how it works. And I don't know if we should be accepting that, or if we should constantly be at the doors of Square Enix saying, hey, change how this works, because I'm pretty sure it's near impossible without them completely gutting the game to make that change, right?
I mean, that's above my pay.
Oh, you cut out again. Logitech hates you, man. I can't hear anything you say because Logitech hates you. Okay, there you go.
There we go.
You back in comic kit. Oh no, champ. Okay. We'll do.
Okay. There we go. We'll do sign language. How about now? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha,
Good. No, I'm fine with the way it is now. To be honest, just because, like Chyea said, we're used to how it is. So I'm changing it might affect our performance for a little bit. So I would rather just keep it how it is, to be honest.
Because there's other things they could do to make the game better, I think, besides changing that.
Right, like the grass textures that we've been angry about since beta.
I mean, what really needs to happen is that they need servers that are more distributed, that aren't just in Montreal. They need to spread them throughout the US and Canada.
Yeah, I don't know how much those servers cost, though.
I'm sure they're expensive, but SE is pretty in the black with Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing... Oh, wait, you said pretty in the black.
Yeah, that means that
they're making
fine.
lots of money.
Okay. I've never heard that expression ever in my life.
It's the counting thing. Like, if you're in the red, you're losing money. If you're in the black, yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought that was almost a gambling thing. I thought,
No.
if I did a black or red, I was like, I don't know. But okay, yeah. No, they're doing pretty good with Final Fantasy 14, and they need to keep going. You can't stop that train. And PvP, do you think that's actually helping more people come to the game? Just off on a tangent real quick.
Okay, so there are definitely people who I play with and who are on Gilgamesh and just that I know who play the game just for PvP. Like they were the ones who were playing Wolves Den when there was no one playing Wolves Den. So they're the kind of guys who enjoy legitimately PvPing over all of the aspects of the game. I don't know if that's the right mindset, because I personally feel that Final Fantasy 14 is a PvE game and that the PvP is extraneous. Like, it's fun and it's cool that they have it in the game, but Final Fantasy 14 isn't really a PvP game at its core. It's not meant for PvP.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that people harp on all the time. It's a PvP game or PvE game, right? But they are trying to make that transfer over to make it more of a PvP game.
Yeah, no, they're definitely trying, and they take the class adjustments seriously. They took the feast, the ladder board and everything, pretty seriously. So I'm cool with what they're doing with the feast. I think it's a step in the right direction, and I also like that they're introducing the new Seal Rock every. Sorry, not Seal Rock. Frontlines shatter. Shatter? Yeah,
just
the
battlegrounds, man. I'm just
battlegrounds. I'm just happy that they're also introducing that, so that's stuff for all flavors of PvPers.
Yeah. Well, and if we look at like at a fiscal level, right? If they took out all PvP in the game right now, how many subscriptions would they lose? Do you think maybe you can count on one hand how many subscriptions they would actually lose, right? So it's like I love PvP and I love Final Fantasy. So when I do get to PvP as like as a red mage or as a paladin, like that's awesome. But I know at the end of it's not everything, and it's not why I pay my subscription, but it's like Chyea said, it's a great supplement to the game. I hope they're making steps in the right direction. I hope they continue to build it up, but I don't expect it to be as good as their PvE content, right? Like, right. I don't expect it to be on that same level and that same, they have that much dedication of dev time on it.
Yeah, I'm not expecting that either. But I do feel like the population did move, because before, like back in 2.0, I barely even realized what PvP was. I barely even touched it. I barely even thought about it. It seems like it's a completely different world with 3.x with PvP. Like, it's been increased a lot more than it was before. Do you guys think it's going to fade away to where it kind of was in 2.x?
Personally, I don't think so. I mean, like since we get the new Frontlines map.
Oh God, your mic is just like
Logitech, Jesus.
Yeah.
When we get the new Frontlines, I do think numbers will change a little bit. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, you're just smiling at me, so
I was smiling because I could hear you. I would tell you if I could hear you.
Good. But like so when Frontlines comes out, people like Chyea and people like me are still going to queue for until the season's over, because that's we put in all this time. We want to be on the leaderboard. So I think that the core group will still play that kind of thing, and as it expands, whether
Uh, you might cut. You
All
might cut
right.
off.
let's let Chyea talk.
Chia,
Okay, so
you can try
so
Chia.
uh, I mean, that's all I really want to say about how PvP fits into the game.
Uh-huh.
But what we have in the feast is pretty good. It's pretty solid. I think that the people who are currently queuing for the feast though could stand to be a lot more skilled.
That's why we're having this show.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if we want to talk strategy, we would have to have a strategy for each different role because
We will. Why not? Let's just do it.
I mean that's gonna be quite a lot of shows. But it's hard to give an overall. 1 second. Can you hear the cops?
I can, but I don't care.
They're coming for me. The strategy overall is pretty hard to just say lay down, do this, this, and this, because you're playing against other human beings and they're going to react appropriately. Something that doesn't change though is boxes. Have we talked about boxes?
Boxes like as an adrenaline boxes?
Adrenaline crates.
Yeah,
Adrenaline
no.
offer-
Oh, yeah.
Wait. That's actually one of the core things in the feast, and a lot of people just ignore them or they leave them off the sides. And they don't plan around them. The
I
boxes,
love it when people ignore them. It gives me a free box, man.
Oh yeah, yeah. There you go.
So right off the bat, the thing that people I don't think recognize immediately is that you're not just getting a box for your team; you're denying a box for their team.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a 2-for-1. You're by getting a box, you're getting a lot more than just what you're getting at face value. The thing that one of the reasons why the melee classes are so good at climbing the ladder is because they make the best use out of the adrenaline crates. Getting 3 melee getting 3 auto kills every game by getting all the crates is huge. You just get 3 automatic kills if you do everything properly.
Yeah.
And that's huge. That's probably gonna be half the kills in your game.
Should they
just from
remove that aspect from the game, or is that a
I
good
don't know.
aspect?
I actually think that they probably could do to weaken the melee LB so that it's not 9.4k or whatever it is, like 9.6k. Maybe make it around 8k, so there has to be a coordinated burst on the person you're actually killing. But right now, it's pretty easy to kill, anything but the best of healers. A good healer will generally be able to live through an LB, but if you're playing against, average, fairly competent healers, you're almost always going to be able to get a kill on them.
Right. And that's what I've seen every time, and that's what people have been complaining about at the same point. But for some reason, I enjoy that as a factor in a game, because you're not making it all about your character and your skill at doing your 100% DPS or anything. And I want to remove myself from that. I want to actually say, hey, I'm using objectives. Hey, I'm playing melee, and I'm getting a brawl orb or whatever, right?
Yeah. So like it's something like strategy wise, for example, at 4 minutes into the game, the offensive crates spawn on the north and south sides of the map. And then shortly after, an adrenaline crate will generally spawn if you've been picking up the adrenalines fairly fast. So at around 4 minutes, your team's strategy should be to push forward as much as possible to get them onto their bridge, to get them, far away, so you can steal those crates. You can get those offensive crates because that's 20% more damage for your team. 10% damage on This is all hearsay. I believe it's 10% more damage for each person who picks up a crate. So
okay.
The fact that if you're the one who can get those crates, you've secured 20% more damage. It's a big deal. Basically, those crates will last till the end of the game. So something that I would advise to basically everyone PvPing, every DPS PvPing, is that when those crates spawn, you make it a priority. You burn Fetter Ward, you burn, any OGCDs you have left to make sure you get those crates. Something I'll do as a melee is that if I see someone coming toward me, wanting that crate, like a warrior or something, I'll burn Fetter Ward and then I'll axe kick. I'll pacify them so they don't have a chance of getting it.
That's excellent. The only note I'll add to that is like when we talk about the offensive crates, and at the very end of the game, they pop up at like 30 seconds at the end.
Yeah,
right?
those you could generally ignore.
And I have forgotten the time in a match multiple times, and I've gone through for those crates at the very end of the game, and may have cost us a game or two for me losing all the focused DPS by switching over to that crate, and it doesn't make a huge difference if their match is about to end. If like your match is really about to end, getting those crates is not the thing that you want to focus on.
No, but there sometimes occasionally is an adrenaline crate that spawns closer to the end. I mean, the adrenaline crates, I believe,
Right.
I haven't done actual science on this, but I believe it's based on when the last adrenaline crate was killed. It's about like 90 seconds after the last adrenaline was killed. That'll spawn, maybe 2 minutes. So that last adrenaline is often vital because a melee will generally have about 60 to 80% of an LB bar. So if you can get the last adrenaline and get a clutch LB off, it can win you a game. Also, melee, if you're any melee who are listening, don't LB tanks unless they have 8 or more stacks. Like a 4-stack tank, is going to take the same amount of damage roughly as a regular player. So he's not going to be a super easy kill. So don't just burn LBs for no reason.
And don't LB when the tank's LB is up, protecting them too. Like
Yes,
I
or
just see,
Tetsudo,
oh my gosh,
Tetsudo.
Yeah, you can just be smart with your LB. Look at what their buffs are, and just don't blow your load. You know, because it's such an important. It's the brawl ball, like you said. Like that's the finisher.
Yeah. Okay, so going into another topic here, real quick. Sorry, we have so many topics to actually run through. I want to.
Chyea has nowhere to go.
This is lazy Saturday for me today.
Excellent. So one of the biggest things that's drawing people away from the feast at the moment is kind of people's attitudes, and I think that we kind of have to make sure that people understand what we mean by that too, because people are passionate players, very passionate players, and usually when they lose, they have salt shakers ready to just throw out. Some of these players.
I'll be the first to admit that I get upset when I lose to some stupid mistake. Like when I make a mistake myself, or I see someone doing like something absolutely garbage, I get mad. Like it's illogical, but I have a human lizard brain, controlling my emotions. That's billions of years old, and I can't help it. I do my best to rein in, but sometimes I just gotta get mad at people.
Right. And it's going to happen. People do get extremely upset, and I've been yelled at multiple times. And I can't do anything but just kind of like sit there and take it and laugh about it, because I can't take it seriously. I'm going to be honest. If you yelled at me, Chyea, I'd be like, I don't care.
I mean, that's fine. 20 minutes later, I feel like I was an ass of myself. Like it always feels that way. But like when you're in that high pressure environment, and you see someone who's just like for example, we were a few games a while back where the warrior just ran to the wrong spawn when we were backing out. He just runs to the wrong spawn, and then he blames the healer. And I'm like, dude, you literally ran the opposite way from the healer, and you expected to heal. And they don't take responsibility for it. I just get kind of upset.
Oh, that just reminds me of plenty of times that the other team runs to our base when their healer dies, and I just
that happens more than people would expect.
It's hard to I don't know. I never got disoriented. I always know exactly where my base is at. I don't know why.
I don't know. I don't know why people just run to the wrong spawn. It happens to good players. I've seen good players run to the wrong spawn. Yeah,
multiple times, and that just makes me so happy because I drop everything and I go over there to try to kill him as fast as possible.
There was once a monk, a fairly solid monk, who took 2 medals, and he was trying to back out. And he was close to the end of the game, so he ran to our spawn, and I didn't notice. So he ended the game with 2 stacks on top of our base.
Nice, yeah. I can one up that because someone took 10 medals and ran to our base before. And I was like, "Thank you for the game." We won the game because of that.
I lost that game with the monk because I couldn't find him. I was like, "Where is he?" He was in our base.
Yeah. Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, so going back to expectations, attitudes, all that stuff, people are going to yell at you, and people are going to get furious. And some of the best players, aka Chyea, may be yelling at you, and they could say stuff that's not even remotely constructive.
I'm not going to get mad at you. I'll generally offer some constructive advice.
His angry, because I've been angry. I've said some nasty things that I'm not proud of. But Chyaa's anger is like constructive feedback at the end. He's like, "Hey man, you really need to work on weaving your GCDs better." Like that will be his angry thing. And it's like, oh well, that was tame. He's very tame.
I often say you should go to 8v8. I'm not gonna. I go to HV too. Like when I went through the transition between healer to monk, like I didn't know how to play monk at all. So I spent like 2 or 3 days just doing HV games and grinding it out, just
That
making
is
sure.
the like classic insult for solo feast. It's just like go to AV8, get out of here.
But
It's just like
That's
way
the
it is.
uninstall of the Final Fantasy Feast.
HV8 is not as harsh an insult as people take it to be. Like,
Right.
you use HV8 as a way to improve yourself instead of having to go through the ranked queue and not lose games for yourself but other people too. HV8 is a perfectly reasonable, especially for DPS. Healers, it might be different because HV8 is different healing strategy. But for DPS, you can definitely practice your burst combinations in HV8 fairly easily.
Yeah.
And AV8's fun too. Like it's not. I don't know. It's not an insult.
And you can queue up with somebody. So I mean that's the
Yeah,
biggest thing for me.
exactly.
Is
You
that
can queue up with Chyea, and he can literally teach you how to play.
Yeah, true. See, Tia, it's like when we get out, AV8.
Right.
No, but like if there's a garbage bard or something, and like if the bard is like if you're playing bard and you don't know how to do your Imperial Barrage combo, like
Yeah,
you're not comfortable
that's
with
a
that,
problem.
yeah,
That's
like
a problem.
that's your core killing maneuver. That's how you kill people.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be good at that, and by doing it in ranked, by you're just being dead weight. You're just being a
Mhm.
poor DPS. If you go to 8v8, you both improve yourself. You'll improve your win rate, and you'll learn how to play.
Yeah. AV8 is a very great place to learn moves, read abilities, figure things out.
Primarily for DPS. Healers and tanks, they get less of an opportunity to practice in 8v8. But if you're a DPS and you're struggling, just spend a couple days in 8v8 and really grind out your burst combos.
Yeah.
Well, and Frosty, like the big thing, like the question is about people's attitudes and things like that. What PvP game have you played that people aren't saying the meanest, rudest things to you, right?
Exactly,
Timo,
yeah.
why are you jungle? Timo, why did you take Smite? We're playing Overwatch. Bastion, what are you doing? You're playing Heroes of the Storm. Everyone's screaming at you, hey, get down here now. Like, it's just, PvP is just heated in general, and
Yeah.
it's, so, I mean, I think it comes with the territory, to be honest. You just gotta have a
that's
little
why,
thicker skin.
to me, it's kind of like a silly complaint half the times when people are like, if you don't, when you go into PvP and you're like, I hate the Final Fantasy 14 PvP because people are such a-holes. That's PvP. You don't like PvP.
You mean
It's
you
kinda-
don't like PvP? That's
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that's kind of the thing. When you get in there, people are going to go, because they're really serious, and they're going to try to go out there and take kills. And not everybody has a filter on them that says, hey, maybe I did something wrong. It's usually first reaction is like, I am not a bad player. Why did I lose? Why did I lose? And they want to justify it. And that's a human response a lot of the
Yeah,
time.
no, yes, almost it's 100% natural human for them to try and negate the responsibility. And it takes a very self-aware person to realize that, hey, I fucked up. Now, something I just want to talk about. Like, this is often something I'll say at the end of matches to people who perform poorly. Like white mages, this is the most glaring obvious example. If you play a white mage, you can get 3 sacred prisms off in the game. Okay, sacred prism is 30 seconds of no one ever dying. That's huge.
Yeah.
Sacred prism is probably the single strongest cooldown a player has in the feast.
It's huge. And I will admit to not understanding exactly what it did when I first got into PvP, and there's multiple times I did not stand inside my Sacred
It
Prism.
is the single strongest cooldown a class has in the game, in terms of just negating damage. So the reason why I get mad at people is that they use 1 sacred prism in the game, or they use 2. You really need to be maximizing. This goes to every class, like Sinistry, Internal Release, Axe Kick. You
Should
need
you
to
be
be maximizing
using?
your cooldown.
So here's
No, you
a
shouldn't
quick-
be using it off cooldowns. You should not be using it off cooldown.
All right. So every time it's up, you should be using it.
No, you should not be.
Okay.
Okay, so the goal with this is Sacred Prism specifically, and this also goes to stuff with like Light Speed and Sinistry and healing cooldowns. The goal with the healing cooldown is to match your strongest cooldowns with their strongest burst. Because with your strongest cooldowns, with Sacred Prism especially, you can live through their strongest burst. So you ideally want to be using Sacred Prism. As soon as you engage, wait about 10 seconds, drop Sacred Prism, everyone camp there. They've already popped their cooldowns, they're already starting the burst, you've just negated all the burst by 40%.
Yeah. No, that's excellent, because if you can pay attention to when they're about to burst, and I mean, should they focus target a DPS to kind of keep an eye on that stuff, or how is it really?
Well,
How do you make healers pay attention to that?
well, healers pay attention to cooldowns or Sacred Prism specifically.
Paying attention to other players' DPS's cooldowns.
Well, okay, so the DPS cooldowns, it depends on the individual because like people are going to save their DPS cooldowns. They're going to use them differently. The key primarily is to know what person they're most likely to target. So, for example, they kill the healer first. They're probably not going to go on the healer again. They're probably going to go for the melee or the ranged. When you see them on the melee, you have to be ready to be like, hey, in about X amount of seconds after they engage, they're probably going to start bursting. And you want to be using your Sinistry, Lightspeed, Divine Seal, Presence of Mind, Lustrates in response to that. It takes some getting used to it. Each game is different, but after a while, as a healer, you can generally get used to when the burst is going to come. Like as a healer, when you play enough games, you actually know when the melee LB is coming because they get you into these patterns of positioning and stuns that you know when to purify, when to attune.
Right. That's excellent advice. Chyea, and again, what was it about you not feeling right about talking about PvP? There's something you said to me about.
I mean, I just feel that my PvP abilities in terms of monk and healer are lower than those of the people who I often play with. So I look to them for guidance.
The people you play with are very few with the skill level they have. I don't think
Yeah,
you
but
realize how
I play
few
them
people
all
are
the
up
time,
there in
though.
the
I
same
play them
skill
all the
level.
time though, so I often see them, so I have to learn from them whenever I do.
Oh, geez. Okay, so let's talk about a few exact situations here that I want to hit. The current meta, for people who don't really communicate at all, are kill off the offensive buff first. Go for the offensive buff, then go for the healer. Is this something that you would say for people who have a hard time figuring out targets? This is the best just rule of
so I agree with the strategy. I think the strategy is fairly solid in the lower ranks because generally the melee aren't going to be able to be used to negating large bursts because it's also on the melee to be able to avoid the burst. And going on the healer leaves the melee open or the offensive buff open to kill their healer. So by going on the melee, you kind of negate their DPS and you kill their offensive buff. Sorry, I'm sorry if I'm being a little convoluted.
No,
it's the best strategy for people who don't know what they're doing, because it's the one that negates the most damage and takes away and gives you the most damage because you're pressuring.
But that rides on killing that DPS.
Yeah,
if you can't kill him,
if you're against a good healer and you don't burst like within a GCD, then you kind of have to reevaluate your strategy. In that case, I think my favorite strategy currently is to split the DPS.
I can definitely agree with that. And I love doing that.
If you have two strong DPS and fairly solid healer against a matching comp, bursting one target, and if the burst doesn't work, you kind of want to have the ranged on the ranged, or the ranged on the melee, and then the melee on the healer. By splitting up the DPS, you kind of have the opportunity for hard swaps, and the range shouldn't be really in charge of this. It's up to the melee because the melee has the finishing moves. Well, in my opinion, it's biased, but as a melee, I'll often do a hard swap. I'll stun the healer, shoulder tackle to the melee, and do a chakra or something and kill him.
Okay. And I'm going to ask a kind of personal question here, going towards Machinist. Machinist, when they're trying to target someone by themselves, is it better for them to kind of target, I'm guessing, a caster or a healer instead of maybe a melee?
I've been killed dozens of times by strong machinists just by themselves. I think a machinist who knows what they're doing on a healer is a perfectly reasonable single target a player. Like
right.
If a machinist wants to target somebody, they should just target the healer every time.
I think that's what I would kind of agree with, because there's so much that you can kind of do and screw over their healer that will make whatever the rest of your team doing work.
Keep in mind though, if the burst works, if you know you have a strong burst combination and you know they have a weak healer, kill the healer every time, because killing the healer gives you the most tempo.
Right. Champ, you got any thoughts on that?
No, I definitely agree. Especially like you're talking about specifically machinists. I've seen gosh, I can't think of his name right now. He's a fantastic machinist. He can one shot one person while I'm on Dragoon and worry about someone else.
Right.
So yeah, it's splitting DPS. But like Chyea said, like the when you're at the bad rankings, which solo queue, especially at the early stages, that's kind of like the default strategy because that's the easiest to pick up on. But yeah, when you get against better players, you know who does what, and splitting that DPS. If I can kill the healer, or if you can kill the healer while I work on somebody else, like that's fantastic.
Especially like there are some comps that just can't kill certain DPS. Like a monk with Fist of Earth is and Foresight and Keen Flurry and Featherfoot is very hard to kill during the first instance of the game. So something like a summoner, another monk, it might be pretty hard for them to kill it.
On one of the last PvP shows we were doing, people got some heat for suggesting monks going into Fist of Earth. Do you think that's actually...
Fist of Earth is the best. Okay, Fist of Wind is the best fists. Fist of Earth is the second best fist. Fist of Fire is only when no one's ever hitting you.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like using Blood for Blood almost.
Yeah, Blood for Blood. Okay, listen. I go on a huge spiel about Blood for Blood. Don't press Blood for Blood.
Champ, your mic cut out anyways.
Yeah, go ahead, Champ. Go ahead, Champ. Talk about Blood for Blood.
Okay, talk about Blood for Blood? Yeah. Oh, because I've died to it plenty of times.
Yeah, like...
Chat.
Your mic.
You cut off again, Champ.
Is that a wireless mic?
It's the whole headset. Like the headset just turns off and then turns back on.
Okay. Try to do it. See if you can do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Do what? A flip?
Yeah.
No. Are we okay? So what was the topic? Because we were talking about the
blood
fists.
for blood.
Okay, so blood for blood. Be very careful. A lot of people just pop blood for blood and die.
Exceptionally careful.
It's like so. I played a lot with Chyea, and I got yelled at a lot with Chyea because. One, with my Blood for Blood opener, there's no question I can kill you in my opener with Blood for Blood kind of thing on Dragoon. But then, like, when I started getting into the actual rated matches and stuff, they know that that's what I'm going to do, and then they kill you right away. So Chyea basically said, Champ, you can't be popping that. You can't be doing that. I was like, but, I'm like a glass cannon. I can kill them. If I get my full rotation, they're done. But you can't use that unless nobody's hitting you. That you just got to be really careful when you're popping your Blood for Blood. So I weave differently.
Yeah, the thought that I have with Blood for Blood is I never use it in my. Usually, I never use it. The only time I do use it is if I say, all right, well, look, they're all focusing our healer, they're all focusing this other guy. I'm going to go ahead and pop it, right. And if I see them, I have my finger ready to click it off. Right. Like I'm ready. As soon as I see them jump on me, I'm going to try to click it off. Yeah.
Basically, Blood for Blood on every class but Dragoon is 2 stacks of medals. Like that's huge. 2 stacks of medals, you always kill that guy, right? Like that guy's gonna die. And by pressing Blood for Blood, you're just giving them 2 stacks of medals on you.
Mm-hmm. And people don't entirely realize how painful that can be to you because especially it's so great. In the lower tiers too, when people are setting up their burst at the very beginning and they get the offensive buff and they're like, I'm going to do as much damage as I can. They blood for blood.
Kill them instantly.
And they just die. Yeah. Wow,
you blink and they're gone.
Yeah. But I've learned to try that. It's very powerful. It's powerful to have it and to use it, but you have to know exactly what you're doing with it. If you don't treat it as in something that's going to get you killed, then it's going to get you killed.
Mm-hmm.
So. Anyways, so we were talking about, going and how to kind of best kill people. I think we covered that pretty well. That's pretty much the meta is there because it's a decent meta for killing people, for people who aren't coordinating properly. And people, there are certain situations where it's not going to be a little bit different, but if you're joining up a group and you're unranked or you're bronze or you're silver like me and no one's talking, I say hi to everybody. I do my little emote for hi, and no one says anything, and I'm just like, all right, well, this is what we're going to try to do, and I probably need to be taking more initiative saying, hey, who do you guys want to kill and everything too. Every single match I do that. Maybe that's going to be my new question. It's just, hey, who do you want to kill? And no one responds. Okay, well, I'm going to mark something 1. We're going to try to kill it. It doesn't work. I'm going to start focusing the healer down because I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like as a machinist you are super valuable doing that. Okay, so let's go to the next kind of situation here. Are there some clear-cut situations where you should focus adrenaline and offensive boxes over killing a player. Say you have a chance of killing somebody at that moment.
Depends on how many points the player's worth. If they're worth 7 points, the crate is really good.
Right.
Or like let's say you're on DPS and I'm on tank, right? And you're close to killing someone. I'm gonna peel off and go to the crate as a tank, so I can start whittling it down while you get your kill and then come pick it up. So the crates are just game changers for melee DPS. It's absolutely game changers.
Yeah. I mean, I usually, and this is what, if one of my DPS teammates die, I'm like, well, how can I improve the situation right now? Because I can't, it's going to be really hard to kill someone unless if my burst is up. If my burst is up,
Right.
I have a chance of killing someone. If I don't have a burst up and my other teammate's dead that can do damage.
What are you're just going to pew pew and let them heal back up?
I'm like, all right, well, I'm just going to increase. And this is another thing that really gets me is that people are so focused on that last number. Although it's really cool to see the really high numbers. And it's good to whittle down people's health so you make the healer use their mana. There are certain situations to where you should probably be focusing. You're like, all right, well, we need to just back off. We need to stop attacking, go and do objective stuff, get crates, because it happens.
Pop mana song.
Pop mana song, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I forget to do that. But if a healer's yelling for it, they always get it. But I often just forget to watch my healer's mana and pop it on them. Healers always be vocal if you need mana. Have a macro that's just mana song and just spam it with a sound on it. But yeah, that's something a lot of DPS don't realize is that they can really make a complete difference in the fight if they give a mana, not mana song in general. I'm sorry, I'm talking about mana draw.
Right.
Yeah, but I call it mana song in my head because I never use mana song. Screw that. That.
Well, I mean, the other thing, like what you're talking about, is sometimes backing off is the best strategy. You running in and trying to continue the fight where we don't have burst or things like that, you're just going to make things worse because now you're dead or someone else is dead or now we're low on mana because you continue to do something and then the team's just off tempo. Like Chyea said, this game is all about tempo, right? You just got to keep the pace and keep the match going. And when your healer dies, it changes the rhythm of the game, kind of thing. So.
Yeah. Chyea, thoughts on what we just said?
Yeah, no, that all makes sense. Like everything about the game really revolves around people's cooldowns and the reaction to those cooldowns.
Yeah.
So you should be ready.
And so a lot of times when I say stuff, I'm very doubtful if what I'm saying is correct, just to let you guys know. Because while I PvP and I like the PvP, I don't consider myself a good PvPer because I PvP 1 to 2 days a week is when I get the chance to actually do it. So if I'm saying something and you guys are like, you are completely wrong, please smash me on it. Please tell me I'm wrong.
Everything you said is pretty reasonable.
Yeah, you haven't said anything that's like that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. No,
Okay.
And that's the thing is like people with common sense and common sense on what the job they play, right? Your role in PvE, I mean, to a certain extent extends over to the PvP to that you have abilities to boost people's mana and regenerate mana. Okay. Well, in the PvP world, that could be a game changer when, the one team has mana, the other team doesn't. So knowing your role as a supporting role in that situation is a game changer. And some people who, don't know their job won't, I've seen people pop like Foe's Requiem.
I've seen that too.
Oh my God. And I'm like, what? You're just lowering your damage.
And they pop Foe's Requiem. I'm like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
Come on.
So it's like, that's something I would smash you on. But in general, you're a good player as far as.
Do you guys want to quickly explain to everybody why Foe's Requiem is not good?
Foe's Requiem increases magic damage. Mage's Ballad is the one you want.
Right.
Yes.
All right. And
also increasing magic damage when your other DPS is like a Dragoon. Like, what do you? Is his spear magic?
So explain to me real quick. For Foe's Requiem, how does that lower your damage though? Isn't that like maybe I understand?
So yeah, there's some people bringing it up right now. Originally, I believe the original tooltip was I think your damage is lowered by a certain percentage. I don't know if that's the current meta because I don't play Bard. Chyea, maybe you can.
Foe's Requiem doesn't increase your damage. It doesn't decrease your damage.
Doesn't decrease.
You lose a GCD for it though.
Yeah, you have to sing it. So yeah.
I'm pretty sure the songs used to lower your damage while you were singing them. I'm pretty sure.
Some songs do.
Foe's Requiem never had that ability. Never had that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. Okay.
So yeah. So I mean, you lose a GCD on it, and it. The only thing would it be worth it to use it to help like a summoner or a black mage on your team?
Well, you wouldn't because they're ranged.
Okay.
And as you would never be paired up with that comp.
Oh yeah, that's true,
Because
right?
Bard wouldn't be paired up with a
So
magic name until we get red mage or blue mage
and
or
healers
something.
can't do anything. So like damage wise, at least, right? They could do controlling. So you're not buffing anybody. A ninja maybe, right? Maybe you're buffing a ninja up a little bit. I'm trying to find some use for it. I don't know.
I mean, the thing is, you're taking down your mana in a game where you can use that mana for a mana song.
Right.
I mean, you know.
So it's completely pointless to use it. Basically, people will laugh at you if you use it,
Yeah.
or they should. Okay. All right. Good. All right. Cool. We got that out of the way. Now, when someone is at full health and you have no burst, and we talked about this a second ago, and one DPS dies, is your focus to just do objectives and just do you need to be just still trying to do damage to someone and lower and
So
the
when
mana
you
pool
have
of the
when you
healer?
have no cooldowns and you're basically like waiting around for your next opportunity to burst. Your goal should be to mitigate as much damage as possible.
Survive.
Survive while also maintaining some modicum of pressure. Because when you let the healer catch up, or everything's hunky dory for the healer, it gives them more flexibility. So you want to be applying pressure, but you also want to be making sure that with the positions you're putting yourself in, and you're not overextending, you're not basically giving up ground while you're waiting for your cooldowns to show up again.
Right. I gotcha. All right. So just wanted to finish that point off. We go to the next part here. And we talked a few points in there that people are always failing on. What's some other things that we haven't mentioned that people are constantly failing on within PvP matches that they could definitely improve on?
The green circle thing, when you see the white mage drop the green circle, fucking stand in it.
Stand in it.
Just stand it. It basically reads if the white mage is any good at all, for the next 30 seconds, everyone in the circle gets to survive.
Is invincible. Yeah.
Yeah, like that circle is bonkers good. People can still die in it, but generally when you have the circle on the ground, it's a huge benefit for your team. It's absolutely gigantic.
And you should also know that on the opposite, so I see the opposing team put down the green circle. I'm not going to waste any of my burst because I'm not going to kill them.
There's no point. They have minus 40% damage. Like,
right.
Don't bother unless they're a GCD or two away from death. Okay, so I should be more clear on this. There are situations where you want to stay on the person in the circle. If the white mage is CC'd, if the white mage is under serious pressure, like they just can't keep up, it's possible to kill someone in the circle, but you have to use your best knowledge for that. Generally, I think 8 times out of 10, 80% of the time, you should not stay in this. You should not stay in the circle. You should just get out and kite away.
Okay, I gotcha. What else do we got? What other situations?
No,
Chiea's just ready.
No,
Chiea's ready.
One more. Okay, about black mages.
Okay.
Black mages, when a black mage is CCing, sleeping and then freezing, you can't just CC. Just CCing often doesn't do anything. You need to be able to do the CC in between a burst combo. So I'll give you an example.
Yes.
So what the black mage should be doing, and this is a good play, is Fire 4, Nightwing, OGCD, the healer, get them slept, Firestarter. So you've set everything up. You have Firestarter ready to go. You fire 4, Nightwing, Firestarter on the target you're killing. So that makes the healer purify, or someone else purify the healer, waste them a GCD, and you've just got a big Fire 4 hit with the Firestarter proc going in at them. So just sleeping and just binding doesn't do anything. You need to be weaving in your CCs or timing your CCs so that it goes in between your big burst hits.
Right.
And that's the problem with the majority of the people who are queuing Black Mage is as soon as I see them, I'm like, oh, look at all this damage I have to compensate for, because they're just going to go in there and try sleeping over and over and over and over and over. They're not going to do anything.
It's really cool when you sleep someone for 12 seconds, but when no one dies in those 12 seconds,
it's like, oh, great.
Yeah. And so a lot of things that would probably apply to a lot of different jobs too that are DPS jobs is that to do stuff, kind of use your control mechanisms that you have and do damage. And make use of them, right?
By doing more damage, by keeping up the pressure on people, it forces them into positions that they don't want to be in. When the healer has to use benediction within the first 3 seconds of a fight, that's not something the healer wants to be doing. The benediction is a last-ditch move. Now they've just lost that cooldown for 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. All right. So
What? Okay. I have one more thing.
Okay.
Paladins or any DPS who run into a target and start stunning them.
Oh God.
Like I've seen countless times, hundreds of times, a paladin runs into a fight and then stuns the white mage off the bat. First GCD is a stun. Never do that.
Okay, explain to everybody why real quick.
Okay, so
you just wasted lockdown chances. You're just
your team isn't even in position yet. Team hasn't even popped cooldowns yet, and you've just put the guy on stun DR. The best way to kill a healer, or the best way to CC a healer, is to wait until the target or the healer is at 60%. That's the go-to button. Then start stunning them. You've already put them behind, and your DPS is already working on the target. So by stunning them, you've just opened a way more chance for a kill potential.
Right. And so, yeah, and I see that all the time, and it makes me insane. Now, reverse that to a warrior who runs straight into it. They're building stacks, right?
Yeah. A warrior, as long as you're not, brutal swinging right off the bat, first GCD.
Right.
You want to keep up the pressure on the healer as much as possible, but you want to use the stun DRs as a resource. You don't want to use them willy-nilly. You want to use them as a you stun the target, and now someone dies because you stunned that target. So, when you healer especially as DPS, you can stun them to peel, or you can stun them to negate a burst combo or something like that. But for a healer specifically, the stun should be used as kill combinations, not as lockdown tools. I mean, you can use them as lockdown tools to get a kill, but don't just do them just because he's off stun DR, I'll go lock him down.
Right.
Now, Paladin is a special case because they can lock down for 10 seconds on the healer, because they can do stun, silence. Or stun, silence.
Yeah, and so I definitely agree with you. I've seen a lot of Paladins, and their first thing's like, yeah, I'll lock down the healer, but they lock down the healer before we ever get a chance.
And now the healer is stunned. Now the healer is stunned DR, and it is just free casting, and then you have to wait a minute before you can even do anything to him.
Because it takes me a second to line up. I have to get procs. As a machinist.
You want to get your procs up. You want to get your blood for blood and Hawkeye and everything going. You need time. You need GCDs. Doing it stunning. I mean, this goes to any class. Lots like monks who shoulder tackle the healer, also garbage.
No.
Off the bat.
Oh yeah.
Shoulder tackle to catch up, perfectly reasonable. You can use shoulder tackle for that. But shoulder tackle first GCD, I'm going to shoulder tackle the healer. Don't do that, guy. Just run up to them.
Yeah.
Right.
Same with Dragoons that are doing the stun jump at the opener, and the ninja who does the instant stun dash too.
Yeah,
any stun at the beginning. Use it to your advantage.
You should definitely use them because they're very powerful abilities. Yes. All those gap closes are great, but you want to be using your DRs wisely. And I know it's very hard to coordinate in solo queue, but if everyone just respects the rule that DRs are sacred and you should be using them properly, if everyone is in that mindset, you're generally going to be able to use your DRs to maximum efficiency.
Okay. All right.
All right, go ahead. No,
I was gonna let Champ have his Champ talk here now.
Terrible sins, like stuff like that. You just need to be aware that what you're doing has consequences to everybody else.
Yes.
It needs to be, every button you press, it matters. Like you should be pressing the right buttons.
Right. Okay. Champ, what you got, man?
Oh, so at least two I want to talk about are coin pickup and who picks up coins, and the other thing is like positioning of, we talked about it earlier, awareness. Like as a melee DPS, you should always know where especially if you're taking the offense buff, you need to know where your healer is, right? Because one, I can use line of sight to my advantage and also to my disadvantage, right? So if I go around a corner and I know where my healer's at, he can't see me. Well, if he can't see me, he can't heal me, right? And I see a lot of people, their burst is up, they go in for the kill, but the kill's over on the other side behind the wall, and now they're dead. So you've just...
You completely broke out, but I'm just going to finish the sentence for you. When you go behind a wall, when you're trying to kill someone, you're getting yourself killed half the time if your healer is on the other side of the map, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So thank you, because my mic died.
Especially if you have blood for blood up. If you have blood for blood up and you're behind the wall, you just abandon.
So that's funny because the same person who puts blood for blood up will likely run behind a wall to get a kill.
Definitely.
Oh gosh. Again, blood for blood's still good, guys. Don't write it off. Just you have to know how to use it.
Now something that I learned a lot or did a lot as a healer is with a wall, you can actually you can position yourself in such a way that you're clear to the majority of your people, the majority of people in the arena, while also line of sighting the enemy ranged. So, something to pay attention to as a healer is that if you have a pillar between you and the range, they can't hit you. So just circle around the pillar, sneak in a GCD for a heal, run around the upside of the pillar. It's a nightmare for the range to get you. I've watched bards like yakety sacks around a wall trying to hit me with their Imperial Barrage combo until it actually falls off.
It's so painful. Like when I burst, especially me, I have done it before where I burst all of my, not burst, I use all of my cooldowns and I'm ready. I put Wildfire up, then the entire time they're just dancing around and I don't get any hits in with the Wildfire.
When you see Wildfire, 200, you're like, yeah, I did a good job.
yeah. I'm just like, grr. But I mean, that means they did good. They did a good job. So it's hard for me to be like really angry because I'm actually more like, hey, good job. You know what you're doing. I'm impressed with you, even though I lost because of you. But good job, guy. So, guys, I think we've been going for about 2 hours. I don't know if we need to go into some of these other sections here because we have questions lined up too. I don't know. Let me check and see how many questions we have lined up.
Talking about this last second page.
This last. All right. Tell me the points that you want to talk about, Chyea, that we have on there, and we'll go over those.
There's some good further discussion here.
Okay.
So I strongly think that SE needs a 4v4 unranked mode.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
That needs to be in the game. Just because 8v8, while it's a cool place and it's fun and it's nice, it's good to have, it doesn't, the feel is completely different from 4v4. And people who want to take 4v4 seriously, 4v4 unranked it would be a huge boon to people.
Right. So you think it's good to do 4v4 unranked from what you said?
If 4v4 unranked exists, I would make use of it extensively.
Okay, so here's the other bad thing from that is taking away people from 4v4 ranked to go into unranked, and so you're increasing the queues for 4v4 ranked, right?
That might be true, but 4v4 ranked is kind of like a training station. Like it would be for people who aren't comfortable playing, certain roles, and then when they got into the 4v4 ranked, the 4v4 ranked itself would be better off. It would be a more enjoyable experience for everyone involved, even though there might be longer queues. I don't think, or maybe I could be wrong here, that people would do 4v4 exclusively just, for fun, because then they could do 8v8 for that. 4v4 ranked would be more for the people who take it seriously, but want to practice.
Okay. So, I don't know. Like, I'm really at that tipping point, because when I want a PvP, I want a PvP, all right? I don't want to, get into a waiting fest. I think that's the biggest thing is how they have PvP set up right now, where you need a tank, a healer, a ranged DPS, and a melee DPS.
Okay, yeah, but see, then it just breaks the game too much if you don't go with that pattern though. Could you imagine a game with 2 black mages? It'd be so bad.
So yeah, that
bad.
This comes from if you don't have. Yeah, this is a team setup. They have this to where it makes balancing a lot easier too, because you're required to have all these roles in here.
Yeah. So. If they open the floodgates and allowed any role to go in, there would be some busted combinations and some completely underpowered combinations.
Right.
Which what the original Wolves Den was actually.
Yeah.
That makes sense. No, that makes sense that it would completely screw up combinations, and then you would basically a lot of jobs will never see the light of day in Feast. Never. Right now they're balancing between 3 jobs for one role, 3 jobs for another role, and then so on. Right.
Well, the other thing is okay, let's look at it with a PvE mindset, right? Mm-hmm. So you have hard mode, which is story mode, and you have savage or extreme. And you can't just go into extreme mode and with other people who are on the extreme level and know the mechanics and things like that. You can't just walk in with no knowledge of the fight beforehand, So I think it's the same with the ranks. People are coming into ranks games and they don't even have PvP abilities on their bar. They don't have Purify on their bar, They just want to try it out and have some fun. So I'm all for having an unrated 4v4 because when I take it personal when I'm playing as hard as I can. I'm giving it my best, and I know 2 other people on my team are, and then we get one person who, hey guys, first match, and it's oh god, it's like they've never done PvP ever, and I'll see the achievement.
First match, you'll see the achievement.
You'll see the achievement, and then you're just like, oh man, because, and I feel bad for people on the other end too, right? I'm on the other team. Yeah, I feel bad for them too because they're probably going to lose because my team's going to stomp them because my team's full of actual PvPers. So I mean, it does kind of it sucks because the stakes are high, right? There's, like you said earlier, the people are losing their gold qualifiers over and over and over and over, and they're stuck in EOL hell because, something keeps coming up or someone's playing for the first time. So I think having a 4v4 unrated is fantastic because you still can PvP and you can still can do all that stuff without, there's no high stakes. There's no stakes involved as far as that.
Yeah. So I get what you're saying. That analogy does make actually a lot of sense if you're comparing it to like extreme versus normal mode or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the quality of the games would be a lot better. I agree with that. I definitely agree with the quality of the games. I'm just so worried about not being able to play them. That's the only thing that's throwing me off.
So the thing that SC needs to do primarily is make PvP attractive to people in general. Now, if I was in charge of the feast, I would add a mount to top 100.
Mm-hmm.
I would, yeah. So I would make the headgear and the body pieces, that would be rewards for getting the ranks, like bronze, silver, gold. Like if you got bronze, you would get the feet. If you got silver, you would get the legs. If you got you know what I'm talking
Similar to
about.
the front lines, yeah.
And then diamond, you got the head, stuff like that.
Right.
And then top 100 would be the mount. So
right.
And a mount is like it's really special. People really want that.
Right.
And that
exclusive.
That would increase the amount of overall people rushing into the system to get it.
But now, I'm going to completely fight against you on that for just a second, because I agree, that would be a great idea. But the fact, I'm going to pull Triple Triad into this, just because Triple Triad was a cluster, right? And so a lot of these really cool rewards, which were the cards, were out there, but people found ways to kill the system.
Okay, so if you're talking about cheesing the system, and you can cheese the system in the feast, it's possible to cheese. That requires SC supervision. It requires them actually caring legitimately. And they've shown, actually, they banned a 4v4 team that was feeding off each other. They took measures to that. But in solo queue, it's a lot harder because you have to judge intent. Like, you have to judge, hey, is this cheesing happening on purpose, or is it just, coincidence, or is it just, what's actually going on? And that's very hard to do.
But isn't that more likely to happen if there is such a great reward at the very top?
Yes, it will definitely happen. It will require much more supervision.
Right.
And it's not going to be 100% like flawless. There's always going to be leaks happening, but I think that's possible to.
Okay.
This for me, I've been playing since Alpha 1.0, right? This has been the first patch personally for me where it's not that I'm not having fun. It's just I'm kind of like, because right now my focus is on the feast. I really like the feast and things like that. But in the end, like of all my 3 months of doing this kind of stuff, like was it really worth it? Like look at Chyea. I don't play nearly as much as Chyea. I'm still in the top 100. He's in the top, always in the top 10. But he plays a lot. He plays a ton. And look at the rewards he's getting. He's going to get the trophy. He's going to get a couple, some body armor and stuff like that. But
I'm not going to get the trophy. I mean, like I like the rewards. The rewards are cool, but I
don't think they're enough.
They're probably not enough. But I'm doing it for the achievements. Let me just be clear with everybody.
Okay, of course. Yeah.
Right. But I mean, I think just the amount of time I've spent doing the feast, like that time that I've done, let's say doing farming Coil or farming Alexander, I got much more rewards out of that than I'm gonna get out of the feast. Like I'm spending all this time, all this energy on PvPing in the feast, and the rewards are just like, okay, here's
you really have to like the feast though. Like
right.
To do all this, you have to enjoy the game mode. They could start to increase the rewards and maybe not make it. Okay, no. Here's an idea that I was talking to Champ last night actually.
Oh yeah.
I would split the leaderboard into top 20 of each role.
Okay.
So it'd be top 20 tanks, top 20 melee, top 20 range DPS, top 20 magical
healers.
DPS, and top 20 healers.
That's completely fair. I could wholeheartedly agree with that.
Because right now it's too easy to climb as a melee because you have way too much sway over the game. Maybe not too easy, but it's easier to climb as a melee than it is any other class because you have a greater control over the kills. And as a healer, it's a nightmare. You can't queue as a platinum healer or as a diamond healer. It would be hell.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes sense to me. So I guess the biggest thing that you guys think should be changed right now is going into making sure that there's an unranked for 4v4. And then
That would be
giving
huge,
better rewards so it drives people into it as well. So you're not dealing with these longer queues because of a 4v4
maybe, okay, like
unranked.
people often like people might get salty about amount, but like a title.
Amount's good. I know. I agree with you. If there's going to be a really good reward at the very end for the top
amount.
players, amount makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like,
the people
it
who
doesn't
make
even
them
have-
out will be upset because only a handful of people will have them.
It doesn't even have to be
but-
a crazy cool amount. I would take a recolored ADS that sparkles. Like I would take that.
I want the crazy cool mount.
Yeah, I kind of want to ride on Bahamut. I don't know.
What mount would even work for a feast? It'd have to be like a wolf, like a big ass wolf or something.
Why not make a crazy looking Finir with armor on it?
I would want a like Roman chariot, like a gladiator's chariot,
That'd be pretty cool too, actually.
or
yeah.
a bigger airship.
Yeah,
right?
or
yeah.
a big airship, yeah.
or a chocobo that's holding your like carrying your chariot, so it's like
Or
a
with
two-mount
a
thing.
chocobo with rockets on it, or like
Yeah.
there's so many things you could do.
Or a Lalafell that holds you on its shoulders, and you have to ride the Lalafell.
No,
I like that.
Yeah.
You like 6 Lafels. Like how they have those palace carriers.
They're holding you up like this.
Yeah.
Damn. So yeah, I agree that if they want to get more people in the feast, they got to do this stuff, but they also have to fix the ways that they're going to get the rewards and make sure that the people who are getting it legitimately deserve to get it.
Yeah, it would require a lot more supervision, a lot more, paying attention to what people are actually doing in the feast. And I mean, there's some cheesing going on in the feast. It's not so obvious yet, but it'll happen in the last week.
Yeah, and I mean, I expect that. If the system can be abused, I expect it to happen. That's why, when this stuff kind of happened with Triple Triad, it's not as big of a deal of Triple Triad. Triple Triad's like a small little fun thing in the side, but PvP is a side of the game. It can't, right now it's kind of a side of the game that's been building, and to stop it from being crushed, Square Enix has to be on top of it.
Yeah,
They
so
have to be.
that just takes some dedication on where they're putting their priorities in terms of what the game masters are looking at. That would be like if they wanted to take the feast to the next level to make sure that rewards are sweet and everything, they would also have to take their supervision of the feast to the next level.
I gotcha. Well, let's hope for it, and hopefully we can just send a message to SC just to make sure that they keep an eye on it and that they're
Give
actually
us a Lalafell mount.
Lalafell mount. Yeah,
Lalafell mount.
yeah, no doubt. Okay, so are there any other points that we have here? Because there's a lot of other points we have to talk about that you feel like we have to talk about on this show before we get close.
No, we covered a lot.
Okay, so we do have some questions I feel like we should go out there and answer. We have one from Keenfire here. And by the way, guys, if you're looking at the topics list, there's one with a whole bunch of crazy nonsense, like I'm slamming the keyboard to make up random symbols. We're going to have to skip that topic just because we're going to, we will seriously be here for another 5 hours if we hit all these topics. I'm realizing this now because Chyea and Champ are great people to talk with. So there's a lot of things to say. But I'm going to go ahead and jump over to the question section here. And Keenfire is the first one to ask a question. And he wanted to know kind of the most important things that he needs to focus on putting PvP points on, I guess more in general, what to prioritize when you're low on points, and as well as some important things to grab when you have a larger amount of points. But I think it's constantly a build, right? So what you're going to get the first time, you want to go towards that. You're never really going to reorganize it.
Well, there's some skills like retrogradation for Astro that increases potency. You don't really care about that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple skills that are just they're not great to get. Does Kiefer say what
Especially on
class he is?
Bard and Machinist.
Yeah, there's a good handful of them on there.
So generally, just in general, I would generally, if you're melee, you generally want to get Fetter Ward up there. You want to get Fetter Ward first. Fetter Ward, Purify for every class. Reducing the cooldown of Purify is pretty huge.
Mm-hmm. I would almost kind of even just tell you right now, the very first thing you should get is Purify.
Yeah, Purify for sure. Purify is you're always going to be using it on every class. If not on yourself, you can use it on somebody else. So Purify, and then stuff for heal. Like if you're a White Mage, Sacred Prism. If you're a melee, definitely Fetter Ward, and then start putting points in stuff like Weapon Throw and Somersault as a monk. It really depends on the class. You kind of have to use your knowledge. If you're playing a healer class, don't pick up things that increase the potency, because the potency increase is so minor compared to the other skills. You generally don't want to put your points in VIT. It doesn't offer you very much. The
So
Heaven's Ward.
putting stats in any base stat like right now, Vit, Mind, any of that, is that worth doing?
Nah, generally not, because Heaven's Ward increased the amount of strength in VIT by a huge amount. That the amount you get is really tiny compared to
Right.
the bonuses you get on certain abilities.
So it's like one of the last things you dump anything into if there's nothing
If you
else.
have absolutely nothing else and it's just garbage, then put points in like your main stat or VIT.
Mhm.
But as a melee, and as a healer, I've never had to do that.
Okay. All right. Champ, anything else that you want to throw in there?
No, same thing. And honestly, the point distribution depends on the job. Like, like I said earlier, Bard has some useless ones that it's just like, okay, or Machinist too. Just
Right.
like, okay, well, I don't need to put points in that. So just it's going to depend on the role that you take.
Okay. All right. So, dude is Antonio. Have you ever encountered someone who is okay? So this actually goes into one of the topics that we were not going to hit, but we're going to go ahead and just knock it out real quick. Basically, his question was, have you ever encountered someone who is speed boosting in the feast, and what are your thoughts about speed boosting?
Listen, I don't know anything about like how the speed boosting process works, but I have noticed people moving pretty strangely in PvP. The one thing that I can tell you from playing this game for 3 years is that if you see someone on your screen who is accelerating in front of you, like accelerating faster than you're running, that's
They're
almost
speed
a dead
hacking.
giveaway.
Unless if
Yeah,
they have sprint, that's the one thing you got to look
that's
for.
for sprint, fist of wind, a ninja without a poison on, stuff like that. You have to take account. But like, if an Astro is just running faster than you're running in a straight line, something's up.
Yeah, and those things you should support. Not support. You should. Some things
You heard it
should
here
report.
first, guys. Frosty supports.
No. Okay, so you should report this stuff. You should go out there and turn it in. And people do get
But
banned for this stuff.
You should be fairly sure though, because like often the game in this stuff in this game, the player positions aren't always 100% true based on latency. The only way that I'm comfortable in calling someone a speed hacker is if we're both running in a straight line and he is accelerating.
Right.
That's
Because I mean,
that's-
one person's going to be ahead of the other person just because of how the screen works and how you capture the location.
but you're going to be at parity. You're all
Right.
going to be within the same range. When that guy is just running faster than you, like in a straight line, and he's going ahead further than you, that means that there's something up. Either it's sprint or it's something, but that's the only way I'm comfortable calling someone a speed hacker.
Well, and the other thing is like, I've been PvPing since Wolves Den came out, and there were people speed hacking in Wolves Den that show up in Feast, and they're still speed hacking. So it's like I still report them, but it's just like, wow, they're still doing that. They didn't get banned, and I think it's just don't get discouraged. I know one of the talking points was talking about this was like, how much does this cheating really affect you? Like. One in every 10 matches might have a cheater or a bot. I'll have a bot healer on my thing where he'll run to the middle and just start DPSing, stuff like that. And it's just, okay, well, it's going to be an instant loss. But that's just one out of every 10 or 20 matches. Same with a speed hacker. I might get a speed hacker one in every 30 matches. And it's just like, okay, well, I'm just going to do my best. And he's hacking and report it. Like, you just can't let that. It doesn't make me want to quit the game because there's a bad apple or whatever. I just report it. I go through the right procedures and keep playing.
And again, this is the same thing when we were talking about earlier, and in PvP in general, when we were saying, oh yeah, people with bad attitudes, you gotta expect people having bad attitudes. If you're playing PvP, there's gonna be people who are out there cheating, trying to abuse the game, and trying to take advantage of everything else. There's people who are gonna do it. And you have to just kind of deal with that situation. Like when you're going to have a bad player, you're going to have a bad player that comes with you. It's part of how the PvP system works right now. And do what you can. Report them, and if you actually think they're cheating.
Do report them. Like if you have to play against them a couple of times and you realize that their movement is not, like, it doesn't look legit, report them.
Yeah.
But, don't report everybody who just runs fast, like, who's lagging or something.
Yeah.
Be sure.
Yeah, be sure what they're doing too, and you'll know after a few matches you might run into them, and you'll see it actually happen a few times in a row. But you can also look at certain situations to where, there are people lag, and so there's a lot of times where people will just stay still for a second, and then they pop across
And
my
then
screen.
zoom,
Yeah,
right.
and that's stuff that happens because it's rubber banding and it's latency within the match.
Right.
You have to know how to distinguish that, and the best way to distinguish that is what Chyea said, is if you guys are running the exact same direction and one person's running a lot faster without sprint or any of those other buffs up. And And sometimes you can't catch that unless you're like recording a match or you're doing that and going back to review that stuff.
I mean, I've seen people like tune the settings way too high too, where it's even above sprint. There's a summoner that was in Feast for a while and he finally got banned, but he would literally pop his dots. Then when you chase after him, he would zoom back to like home base, like zoom, and he had no sprint on, things like that. You could tell. And but I think the discouraging thing in that situation was then you queue up again and you got him again. Then you queue up again and you got him again. It's just like, oh my gosh, losing 5 times. So that's when, okay, let me step away, make sure everybody in my party reported him along with my reports, and just report, wait till he stops queuing.
A lot of you guys are definitely are used to this. Oh, reporting does nothing. Nothing will ever happen to this. But from everything I've heard from talking to a lot of people who are out there PvPing, people do get banned. People, this is right now. It's like almost a new leaf for how serious SE's taking PvP. And it seems like they're coming down and they're trying to make it better in a situation so PvP expands a little bit within the game. So do your part, report them, and if it doesn't work, then hell, it doesn't work. But at least you guys try. Don't let the stuff just keep going on.
Right.
I usually don't notice a lot of times when people cheat because there's some things that you can't really find out. Like, for example, if people are using kind of GCD cheats and stuff like that.
That's very hard to do. Like that you have to watch them very closely to see that.
And that's really hard. But you can kind of... All right, so I'm going to ask your opinion real quick, guys. When you see someone has 100 matches in a game and they won 80 of them, does that raise a red flag to you at all?
It depends on
who it is.
Yeah. Okay. Like there are some players who are good enough to do that.
They're fantastic, yeah.
People who are like rank 8 and they're 80% win
could
rate.
be an alt. I mean, I can't judge anything by win rate.
Right.
I can't. Like
No, it makes sense. It's hard.
I mean, maybe it can raise a red flag where like, oh, that's interesting, but I don't know. I don't have time to do all the witch hunting thing too. I don't do that kind of stuff.
Witch hunting, again, we talked about this a lot on our last episode. Witch hunting kills so much. I mean, the best thing to do is report people for what they do.
Yeah, just hand it. What is your witch hunting gonna do? Oh, people are gonna hate them online. Just go through the GM and just that's all you can do. Like
they're gonna hate you too. Witch hunter. If you witch hunt someone, people are, especially if they're not a person who's cheating, they're gonna hate the hell out of you, as well as everyone that knows that person, and you just have this whole like dramatic situation where people just hate each other over a possibility because someone might be lagging.
Well, and I a lot of these, like, there's a lot of great players who people say, oh, he's a hacker, he's this and that, and I know there's lots of discussion on Reddit about certain people, but you know what? Like, I've played against those people, and I've won against those people. It's like they're just really good. Like, some people report people because they're too good.
Oh yeah.
There are some people who are too good, like bonkers level good, and people will report them because they think they're hacking.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, there are some people who are actually good and hacking.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's out there. You guys do your part. If you think someone's cheating and you legitimately think, like, you looked into it.
You can't be salty. You have to look at this objectively.
Yeah. Don't look at, oh, I lost, so they're cheating. Look at it as in, this is really weird. This keeps happening every time. I look into it a little bit deeper and it seems really obvious. Then report him. Don't, I lost a match, I'm going to report him for cheating. Don't do that, please. Because then you never report me, because, But anyways, all right, so going on to the next part, and we actually had a whole section kind of dedicated to that, but I feel like we just won't have enough time to dive into it all.
We covered it pretty well.
Yeah. And so Teddy here says, how do you think SE could have better executed the introduction of the feast this PvP season?
I think they did pretty well.
Yeah.
I mean, especially day one, everyone was talking about how great it was. Like, everyone loved the feast. It was so much fun. And I mean, the top comment on a Reddit thread was, when I win a match, it's like, oh my God, feast is amazing. And then when I lose a match, oh my God, feast is toxic, or something like that. So like, I think it was received well at the beginning. I was fine with the launch.
Okay. Chyea, you were pretty good with it too?
Well, I think it's great. I think the feast is a great mode. I'm actually like pretty surprised on how well it's implemented compared to some of the other stuff they've done.
Right.
I had lower expectations, to be honest, and so I was really happy with the feast.
I'm pretty.
It's not like you're going to watch Superman versus Batman or Batman versus Superman, and you had the lowest expectations, and you went in there like, that's kind of a good movie because I thought it was going to be horrible.
Square Enix didn't spoil the feast in the trailers, like it didn't give away all the good spots.
if I had to change the way they implemented feast at all, I think I would probably have pushed it a little bit earlier from when they did it, because people were really hype, and then they pushed it back again and again.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
like, I mean,
Yeah.
I guess they did it for tuning purposes, but like, I don't know, it kind of killed the hype a little bit.
I gotcha. I gotcha.
But I mean, overall, very happy with the feast. I think that it's a good game mode, and I think that if SE is a little bit more vigilant on terms of like how they're going to watch the leaderboards, I think it has room to improve substantially.
Yeah, I am looking forward to it. I really hope they keep on this, and if they keep on it, then it's really going to go somewhere. Okay, so Warvin King had a question. Let's see. Why is it that a lot of players are a lot more prolific PvPers in Final Fantasy XIV claim that PvP community itself needs help growing, but yet there's no one speaking out against those who spew, I guess he's talking about spew shit towards potential new players, as in like
Okay.
keeping burning them down and everything else.
So the first thing people have to realize is that when you start PvP, you're going to be trash. That's
Yeah.
the start. Same with
And there,
anything.
people are
Like,
going to call you trash too.
In
yeah,
every
people-
game, in every game, any PvP game.
when you take anything competitively,
Yeah.
when you start, you're not going to be good, and that's just true for everything. Like you don't do calculus in grade 2; you have to work through all the cycles of math to get the calculus. So the point I'm trying to make is that when you start off, you need a thick skin because people are going to get passionate about this stuff. Like people care about their rating, people care about winning and losing. So it sucks, but it's human nature. Um, I do agree that the people in general just need to rein in a little bit, myself included, when
Me too.
you do lose because it is just a game after all. But
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure a way to do that. Like it's hard to stop human nature.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, okay, so did any of you guys play intramural sports in college or ever?
I played hockey in high school.
Of course.
Okay, well,
fucking-
so
okay. Go ahead.
so like your teammates, in sports, right? The guys who come to practice on time and practice every day, versus the guy who gets high and then comes to the game high and didn't practice and stuff like that. He throws the match. Like I've had we'll play football and the quarterback came, he just smoked a joint and came to the game and now we lost because he's not on his game kind of thing. Like any kind of team activity, I expect everyone to at least have some baseline of like competitiveness and professionalism in, especially when it's rated, to come there and bring your A game. I expect from you what you should expect out of me. We should all expect like a baseline of, hey, we're all going to do our best in this thing, and not, oh, I'm actually really, really drunk right now, but I'm queuing up rated. Like
so
I have.
something that I think could help in terms of getting the newer players more comfortable with the role has to do with matchmaking, because matchmaking right now puts pretty decent players, pretty good players with unranked players, which is very hard for people to stomach because they've worked so hard to get to their rating, and then all of a sudden they're playing with a completely new guy, and that really puts a damper on people's opinions. So you have the new guy, failing to do his role properly, and that's acceptable. That's normal. And the people who are more experienced are just unsatisfied with it because they worked so hard and they're stuck with this guy.
So coming back to it, basically having the one tier, or
Okay, one tier. Maybe it's not feasible to do, but
well, I mean like
there
bronze
has
and
to
silver.
be, yeah, there has to be a way to stratify the people's skill levels better, because you get a lot of trash with you get a lot of new people, a lot of unranked players just clogging up the queues with people who want to PvP with like-minded individuals, and those people who are unranked can then climb up as they get better.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure. I'm not sure the solution to that. But I think that as a new player, if you're wanting to get into PvP, at this point in time, take criticisms to heart. What people say is often crazy and unrulish, but in every game, even from the best diamond players, there's always something you can improve on. There's always something you can get better at. You just have to be introspective about that.
Okay. And to just go off on kind of a side note thing here, Bulbasaur was really salty that you were mean to him in the feast at one time.
I was mean to a lot of people, and I continually sometimes do get mean to people, but I don't know. Like it's hard to rein in emotions at a level where you you're playing pretty well, and then someone just throws the match.
Yeah.
And your healer takes 10 stacks, and you're like, what are you thinking? There's 30 seconds left. What are you doing?
You know what's really funny is like I've done this a few times where going off what you just said, where I've killed somebody with 10 stacks. I'm like, yeah, I killed him. Then I run over him, and then I have 5 stacks. It's just like, oh no, what'd I do?
That's actually a problem though. When people get 10 stacks in the game, it just like pigeonholes back and forth. Someone's on either side is gonna have like a huge pile of
Right.
stacks.
So I have to let the tank try to get it. It's still going to be hard for him, but it's I don't know.
Metal picking up is actually a skill because you have to identify if you're the lowest on your team, what you can take. Like if you heal it and you've died twice, you have 25 medals. You can pick up 100 medals without getting a stat. So you should be the one taking it.
Yeah. That's definitely a good point. And that's when people kill me constantly. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to try to pick up medals. I got 3 medals on me right now. We kill this guy with 10 stacks on their team. I'll be okay. I'll have like 1 stack or something.
Yeah.
But
Like getting 1 stack isn't too terrible. It still makes you the target, but like remember, I don't know if people have this memorized. 150 is 1 stack, 175 is 2 stacks, 200 is 4 stacks, and then 250 is 10 stacks.
yeah, so 200 after you get like up to I think 150 for DPS, you should kind of
150 you stop taking it. If you're a tank, you go up to 200, and other than that, unless it's like if you're a tank, you can go up to 225. That's 7 stacks. That's iffy, questionable. But if no one else can take it, you go for it.
So what's okay? So I'm going to ask another question here in regards to metals. What's a good point when you're like, these metals should just rot?
Well,
should you ever let what happens when that happens?
It's actually okay. Now at very high level play, there's actually cases where you want the metals to rot.
Mm-hmm.
So as an example, this was a 4v4 game we once did. They had a 4-stack Bard, a 4-stack range DPS, Bard or Machines or something, and we didn't kill him till the last minute of the game, and we just kept killing everybody else because we knew that was 100 medals we could just pick up at our leisure.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And if we had given it to any of us, we would have gotten 2+ stacks, and they would have focused us instead. So we just killed the melee and the healer over and over again, and left that 4-stack Bard till the very last engagement of the fight. We pick it up and we run.
I gotcha. All right, so.
But you can't do that. You don't do that in solo queue. In solo queue, it's a lot harder to coordinate.
So when metals drop on the ground and no one picks it up and they disappear, what happens? Does that
it goes back? It goes back to the person.
Goes back to the person who had it.
Yeah. So if they had a dragoon with 3 stacks and you kill the dragoon with 3 stacks and no one picks up that thing, the dragoon will come back and you'll have 3 stacks again.
Okay, I gotcha. All right, so that kind of makes sense. So I'm gonna make sure because there's some points where I'm like, somebody has to pick up these metals.
If there's less than a minute left on the match, go nuts. Take 10 stacks. Just and then kite like your heart. 10 stacks on a tank, not on anybody else.
You got it.
Yeah, on a tank. Sorry. Yeah. If you're a tank and you see metal on the ground, and you just book it. You kite. You pop all your cooldowns. You tank LB. You do everything to stay alive. But this is only when the second's ticking left on the clock. Don't take it at like 4 minutes left because you're gonna die.
Yeah. And also, what's the timer on Living Dead? It's 20 seconds, right?
Living Dead gives you the buff lasts 10 seconds, but when it procs, it gives you 10 seconds.
But that doesn't matter because you shouldn't be playing Dark Knight in PvP.
Well, I mean, those kind of things, like especially with Paladin, if you have hollowed ground at the end, no matter what, in the last 10 seconds, you lost a game if the point was you had
time it correctly, because I've seen people home gang because they think the match is over, and then the whole game wears off, and they were at like 10, and then they die, and then they lose. So.
Oh, I can't tell you how many times. Oh, I love that. It's such a good feeling when you kill someone right at the very end and take their coins.
Healers can hollow ground themselves with attunement.
Yeah.
At the end, yeah. Oh, those like the 15-second clutch saves where the melee LB goes off and kills the guy with 5 stacks, and you take the stacks and you turn the game around at the very last seconds. Those are always
those are really fun.
They feel good.
Yeah. And there was a couple of times I didn't realize how awesome I was in a match until I went back and watched the video. I was like, man, I did a really good job. For example, like our team died and our healer died, and it was a point where I was like, I could run back or I could try to kill their healer, and I felt like it was a stupid decision because I should have just ran back. I felt like I should have just stayed alive, but they killed one of our guys in the middle of that, which would give them enough medals to win. But then I killed their healer at the same time, making them lose the medals. And because I stayed there and I killed the healer, we could keep going through the match. And I felt
something. I just want to talk real quick strategy. Do we have time? Can I talk about it?
yeah, talk. It's fine.
Okay, so strategy wise, if you're in the lead, you should just back at 50 seconds left on the clock. Just go on top of your base.
Yeah.
And don't be the guy who the three of the other teammates went back and you're still out there. There's always that guy for some reason in solo
it's
queue.
a tank. It's a tank every time. He just sits there. He's like, I'm gonna tank these guys.
Yeah.
You can use the falling back as a strategic advantage. It's not like you're losing. You're just running backwards. You're hiding, and it's making the clock tick down. It makes it very hard for them to kill you while you're kiting them away from you. Like in 4v4, I mean, Champ knows this all too often. If you're winning in 4v4, you know what the strategy is at the minute left? Run to the base and then kite across the map.
Yes.
Like that's what the best 4v4 teams do. Minute left, they're winning. They run to the base. They wait for the team to come, and then they sprint across the map.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like that's the meta.
That's awesome, man. Okay. So next question here. Epic fail. Isn't 4v4 a different ballgame than 8v8? So telling people to go back and play 8v8 doesn't really help them. I think we actually covered that. We pretty much said,
we covered that. Yeah, for certain roles it helps for sure, but like we said about healing and tanking, it's not necessarily the same translation. But I think one thing is you get a familiarization of what your PvP abilities do. So I think there is a benefit to that if you're new to PvP and you know what does this button do? Oh, okay, or how does this work? Or that I think that's helpful. But especially with melee, I think 8v8 is helpful for your DPS roles.
Like when you're in melee, your goal your thing is your burst combo. So like as a monk, for example, you want to be 100% able to do, chakra, snap punch, tornado kick, axe kick. You want to be able to do that like press it with no problems. Like do that every time, make sure your cooldowns are running. And you need to get into that fluid motion when your burst combo is going on. Because there's a pattern to it. You don't want to delay it by GST, you want to make sure it's all coming at the same time. So when you're in 8v8 as a DPS, any DPS, you get the opportunity to practice your burst combos. And that's the key in the feast, to be really good at bursting.
Yeah. Okay. So, hold on. We got two more questions here, both from Wervin King here, and these are going to be the last questions we take. Just because we're doing okay, but I don't want to keep you guys forever. I feel like we would if we kept just going on and on and on.
There's a lot to talk about. Feast is a pretty fun game.
Yeah, it's huge. It's amazing how deep this
huge.
game can be.
It is huge.
Huge,
okay,
guys.
Frosty, it's huge.
It's huge. Yeah. Oh yeah, 2016. All right. Never mind. We're not going to go into that. No political talk. So Warviking, how important is it for a healer to utilize their more offensive tools like Miasma 2 and Blizzard 2? That's really, actually, I don't know if it's called offensive as much as it's called just CC in general, right?
So Miasma 2, incredibly strong. Ridiculously strong. 20% less healing on a target is gigantic. You shouldn't sacrifice losing someone's life to put it on, but if you have a spare GCD, by far, Miasma 2 is going to... Miasma 2 is like a 400 potency attack right there by reducing the healing by 20%. Blizzard 2 is your best escape tool. The Blizzard 2 bind, being able to kite around corners, bind them there, and then run away, it's one of the best ways to get away from people. As an Astro, with Blizzard 2, you have light speed as well. So you can light speed a Blizzard 2 and still keep healing.
Oh my god. I kind of, I like having these shows because I learn a good bit about, what other jobs and classes do. But when you're telling other people how to play these jobs and classes, and I feel like maybe I'm going to see some of these people actually starting to do what you're talking about, I'm going to be kind of upset.
I mean, that's how you get better though. That's how me and Chyea got better, right? We watch good players and you see how they play.
I watch some killer monks, like some ridiculous monks. I'm still not at their level, so I still learn from them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's so important it's always good to come across good people. Like some people don't like matching up with like the Rum Free Company. They're fantastic PvPers. That's all they do, right? People get scared and they don't want to queue up against them because they're going to lose. Well, I like getting queued up against them because then I can see, okay, what can I do to counter what they did? Because they are so good. How can I get to that level? So I think it's important to watch other people, especially playing your role, right?
Hmm.
If there's a machinist doing better damage or better bursts than you, watch what was he doing that
Yeah.
you weren't doing.
Yeah.
Something that you should keep in mind when you PvP or do any game in general is that people are going to be better than you. Like you don't have to be the best, and being the best is really hard to do. If people are better than you, there's no shame in learning from them. Like even though people might think that I'm good, I know that I still have a lot more to work on in both PvE and PvP, and I always try to take care in what I can learn from.
Okay. So, we didn't bring up 4v4 too much pre-made, I mean,
Yeah,
because
pre-made is it's really hard to talk about though, because like it's it, no one does it.
yeah, it's not really a very alive thing right now. And I mean, I've spent hours trying to get in a 4v4 queue before, and it's just you have to plan that stuff out, and then when you start planning that stuff out, you have two teams playing against each other, and then you're
Exactly.
kind of like, well, is that really cheating? Because you're playing against someone, and you know you're going to play against this other team. It really kills a lot to the match. But I mean, we almost need to just start saying, all right, every Sunday night, every so and so night, this is when this data center is going to go out, and we're going to go crazy with PvP, right?
That would be cool. Like I'd be down for that. But 4v4 just requires a lot more setup. You need four talented individuals, and you need four people who are willing to lose because there's some good teams queuing, and you're going to lose against them until you get good.
Yeah.
So it's takes a certain mindset and it takes a lot of setup to get going. So 4v4 in my mind was a failed experiment by SC. They might keep it for future seasons, future feast seasons, but I don't think that's what the feast is going to end up being.
Yeah, it seems like it's all centered around solo queue, and I don't know if they can really improve that too much unless if there's a larger player base out there.
They have to be some real incentive to 4v4 over solo queue. Some
Well,
very
it'd,
strong
it'd be
incentive.
really cool if they made it like a tournament mode where your team has a scheduled match time against another team, and then the winner of that team progresses to fight the next team.
Yeah,
Maybe it's like a tournament mode. I think that'd be neat.
yeah, that I'd participate in that, but uh, as it stands right now, waiting for a crapshoot against a team, and then the team is very strong, and you just keep losing 10 games in a row doesn't appeal to a lot of people. So I don't
Right.
think that 4v4 ranked at the moment is the healthiest. 4v4 solo queue, pretty active, pretty. You see a lot of faces. 4v4 ranked queue, you see the same like 16 people.
You mean for pre-made?
For pre-made, yes.
For pre-made, yep.
All right. So if you ever are there any comps out there? And we're going to talk in general for 4v4 solo queue. Is there like a perfect comp you see on the other team? It's golden. You know that they have the best chance of winning because they're in that exact comp.
Astro, Warrior, Dragoon, Machinist.
Okay. Because Astro is ridiculously strong, and a lot of people
And then,
they like to, if there's an Astro on the other team, separate DPS because apparently Astro's not as good doing multiple.
they only really have Sinistry to keep up two people at once, unless using Diurnal, in which they have the regens. If they're using
Okay.
Diurnal, then they it's possible to keep up two people at once, pretty good. But generally, Sinistry is only the real thing they have to keep up two people at once.
I gotcha. So Astro, Warrior, Dragoon, and Machinist.
Yes, that's the highest burst comp I can think of.
Okay. And being a huge burst comp is most valuable, you think, currently?
Yes, if the other team is good at bursting, you have and your team isn't, you're gonna have a hell of a hard time
Okay.
living.
And okay, to be also, Chyaa's talking about like meta, like you're
Yeah.
in the top rank, because I found really great luck, especially in the lower tiers, switching to summoner and just the healers can't keep up because you're dotting everything kind of thing. So like I wouldn't say that's the end all be all comp for every tier, because it's just the people you're encountering. But
Definitely not.
yeah.
No.
Yeah, so like I've seen some very very strong black mages, but they
I can't.
seem to have stopped queuing. Like I harp on the black mage class. It's just that it's way harder to play than people give it credit for, and they
Right.
think they're doing things that are helping, but they're really not, and they're just dead weight every game.
I gotcha. All right. And that's actually the last of the questions here. Is there anything else you guys needed to make sure that we just said before we got out of the show today?
I mean, one thing that I've kind of I haven't really stepped away from PvE. I still do the story mode stuff like that. I used to do the hardcore PvE. PvP's kind of been my thing since Feast came out, and I really like it. I really want the PvP to continue. And people like Joe Never, I really like what he does for the community because he, he did like the Seal Rock nights, things like that. I just hope that more people participate in those type of things. So when I saw something on Reddit today that I think they're doing like a Seal Rock or like all day today or something like that. So like those kind of events, there's like a niche part of the community that goes to those things. So people who organize those kind of events, I think you guys are great. If I had more time, I would like to organize stuff like that. But I know specifically, I know Joe Never does that a lot, and I think that's really cool. And I hope more people do stuff like that, PvP community events.
Right. I completely agree. I feel like if I had more time to do stuff like that too, I would want to do it, but I just can't. I've already burnt so much of my time.
Right.
Yeah. Chyea?
No, I agree with the champ saying, those people are really good stalwarts of the PvP community. I think that anyone listening to this who hasn't gone to the feast, and if you want to start taking it seriously, do some 8v8, see if you like it, see if it appeals to you. If you want the latter, I would suggest playing a melee and getting really good at melee because they have the most control over how the game flows. Yeah, but that's about it.
Okay. Excellent. I do want to say real quick to you, both of you guys, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Pleasure to come.
It's been, I know it was a lot of trouble getting the show together too. Like we went through
Yeah,
different things.
Spoilers. We were actually going to do an achievement show, and I had a ton of good stories lined up about me grinding some achievements with my buddy Mal Reynolds, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, unfortunately Mal couldn't make it today, but that show is not gone. It'll happen again another day.
Eventually, but
and hopefully by then Chyea will have his cam work and he'll figure it out.
I'm actually moving in about a month, so I might have a new place. That's also
moving.
Messy.
Evicted is what's actually happening.
Well, my rental contracts.
No.
My dog keeps barking at random strangers, and they're just tired of it.
When you do a show on the true end game, and by that I mean glamour,
right.
ask us back, and then we'll.
I'm trash glamour.
I need to have a glamour show. People have actually asked for that a lot. It's so hard for me to like say, yeah, that would be a great show.
Yeah, when are you going to talk about a glamour show?
No, have you seen? There's a guy who posted on Reddit, and it looks like almost like a fashion magazine website where he like took screenshots of all the different outfits in the game, and then he had other people submit their glamours. It's a fantastic. Look it up on Reddit. It's a fantastic website just for glamours. Like it looks like a Vogue magazine website. It's really interesting, and it's cool that there's like a subculture in this game. There's so many subcultures, right? There's a subculture in this game where that's their end game is glamour, right? Minions, glamour, mounts, those kind of things. So it's really neat.
And it's really awesome. And we went over that in the non-rating show that we had a couple weeks ago that talked about that. That pretty much, hey, there's so much in the game that people are doing. It really feels like a real MMO, right? Mm-hmm. Poor Teddy. Hold on, let me get him real quick. I feel bad about that. He was trying to help out with the glamour website.
Oh, the glamour.
Yeah. Oh, and then your mic cut out like right then. That was good. Permit Teddy. There we go. All right. And so, going more into this, by the way, thank you everybody for watching the show. The show is, I want to do more PvP shows, just because I feel like it's a great part of the game that should get more attention. Right now it doesn't get nearly as much attention as like maybe some other topics, but I'd rather still keep it going because it's something I like a lot. And there's people, when we have these conversations, you can tell just by the way Champ and Chyea is talking the entire show that people care about this stuff. It's not just, oh yeah, we'll BS our way through. You guys put a lot of thought into PvP.
Perhaps too much thought. I need to go outside, I think.
Too much.
And so that's really awesome. And there's a lot of people out there that are really into PvP and they think about all these different things. And I think that if you guys had any interest into it, there's a lot of people. Right now it's a high learning curve for people who don't know anything about PvP going in there and trying to figure all that stuff out. And it's very daunting when you start talking to people like Champ.
It's not that hard though. I mean, like you just gotta get. If you're melee, you gotta get good bursting. If you're healer, you gotta get good surviving. If you're tanker, you gotta get good at picking up medals.
Yeah. Good at picking. No, then you get 10, right?
Yeah. No.
You guys heard it first here from Chyea. Get good. That's all.
Get good.
Get good.
The tank thing though, like tanks are also legitimate sources of burst. This is tank burst combos that they do as well.
Right. And they definitely add the edge. Well, warriors are extremely
Warriors are
obvious.
basically the third DPS. Like they do ridiculous damage.
Right. Okay, and also thank you, Kerr, for collecting the questions throughout the show, Blizzana for the artwork, and Tari for the music in the intro that we had here. Next week, the plan for MogTalk is to bring Zeno and his previous co-tank, at least, Perez, on the show with us to talk about, I don't know. Don't even know exactly what we're talking about next week, but they will have a plan. And if you guys want to keep up with that to see if there's any changes to that, please just follow on Twitter, and that's where I'll post it if there's a lot of big changes on there. Unless if it turns into a show like maybe this week where we're changing it up. Champ found out he was coming on the show, I think maybe
11 p.m. last night.
11 p.m. last night.
Hours ago.
And it's funny because I've before I even did MogTalk, I've known Champ. I didn't know him by Champ, but I knew Champ.
Yep, we know each other in, what is that game called? RL?
RL, yeah. RL. We met in RL, and we lost multiple extreme primals.
No, I think we lost once, right? We only lost to
twice.
King
I think we lost. No, Mog and Ifrit. I'm pretty sure we lost to Ifrit.
Okay. Because we won Odin first try.
Yeah, Odin was first try. All right. So before we leave, we do need to host somebody. Do you guys have someone that you would like to be hosted? Chyea, you always have tons of people you watch on Twitch all the time, right?
No, let's see. Let's see what's on Twitch right now. Hold on, let me refresh.
It might not be saved in your bar. You might have to actually type in the whole.
I like to watch Balana. Balana stream's always good. Yojobo or however he says it. Balana.
Is he streaming?
I'm not sure,
People
but
have
he's
to
got
be
a good
streaming
stream.
for me to host.
Oh, they have to stream. Oh, I don't know
on.
these things.
Well,
like his stream.
there's a guy with 6 viewers named Kuji who's PvPing.
Do you know who he is?
No.
All right, we're gonna since he's PvPing, we'll give him a host. And he's playing warrior again, a third DPS, and I don't know exactly what is he doing. Feast? It says he's doing feast.
It says on the title.
So it says on the title, man, and he has 25 followers. So go check him out. Let's give him a host, and that way you guys can leave from talking about PvP to watching somebody PvP too. Hopefully, unless if he's ending the stream, that would be really embarrassing. But it's happened before. Might happen. Anyways, a good warrior on chaos. Oh yeah, so there we go. EU people. There we go. Oh, he's number 1 on it. Okay.
Whoa.
Good pick.
Big deal.
Chyea.
Big baller.
All right, so I'm going to send him off a host. Thank you guys for watching the show again. We're going to do our awkward waving bye. Say bye, guys.
Bye. Woof.